And I would like to request all of you to mute your microphones. And if there is a speaker, you can also turn off your camera because all other peoples might not be able to see you because the speaker might be spotlighted at that very moment. So, all right. Okay. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the fourth edition of AIBD Annual Radio Web Summit, Voices for the Planet. As per the agenda, unfortunately, Ms. Philomena Nyanapragasam, AIBD Secretary Director, is not available today as she is engaged in Saudi Arabia for Formex 2025, where AIBD is collaborating with the Ministry of Information Saudi Arabia for that international event. So I, Nabil Tirmizi, will be representing AIBD on her behalf. Fellow broadcasters, climate change is no longer a distant concern. It's here, it's real, and communities across the world are feeling its impact every day. From unpredictable weather patterns to rising temperatures to devastating floods, the urgency to inform, educate, and mobilize people have never been greater. For decades, radio has been a trusted companion, reaching out people in cities, villages, and remote areas without barriers of literacy, internet access, or economic status. And in the times of crisis, radio becomes a lifeline, delivering crucial updates when other communication channels fail. But radio power, radio's power goes beyond just emergencies. It can shape public perception, encourage sustainable habits, and strengthen grassroots climate action. Today, we bring together media professionals, climate change experts, and broadcasters from around the world to explore radio's role in climate resilience. Through our three sessions, we will discuss how radio raises awareness, innovative community driven practices will be showcased, and strategies for effective crisis communication will be shared as well. So let's begin, and together let's amplify voices for the planet. So, as per the agenda, session one will be moderated by Ms. Sharifa Tahir, a broadcaster from SLRC SLBC Sri Lanka. If I can have her slide. So, Ms. Sharifa, with 18 years of captivating audiences, Ms. Sharifa is an accomplished television presenter, news anchor, radio jockey, and MC. Her expertise in broadcasting has earned her multiple awards, reflecting a distinguished career in dynamic realm of media. She has conducted many workshops for radio personalities and at corporate levels as well, and had been a judge at various occasions in the process of selecting radio jockeys and television presenters in Sri Lanka. So, Ms. Sharifa, the grid is all yours.
Well, thank you very much, Nabil, for that beautiful introduction. And thank you for inviting me to be the moderator for this very important discussion because we're going to talk about the role of radio in raising climate awareness. And radio plays a pivotal role, as you did very correctly mention. So it has been instrumental in shaping public awareness on critical issues, and climate change is no exception. So whether through daily news bulletins, dedicated environmental programs, or even talk shows featuring experts, radio stations worldwide have a unique ability to reach millions with timely and also localized and accessible information, and it's very convenient to listen to as well. So this session will examine how public radio can effectively educate audiences on climate change, encourage sustainable practices as well, facilitate their listeners during a disaster, and influence policy discussions too. So, our esteemed speakers who will be in the session will share their insights on best practices, challenges and opportunities in using radio as a tool for climate change and climate advocacy. So, let me first introduce our very first speaker, who is an additional Director General for Programs, Bangladesh Beta, Bangladesh. And he's a seasoned broadcaster and media professional with 30 years of experience in the Bangladesh civil service, that is Information Cadre. Since joining in 1994, he has held key roles at Bangladesh Betar, currently serving as head of the program wing, where he drives policy, content development, and high quality programming as well. A British Chevening scholar, he earned a postgraduate degree in international journalism, which is in broadcasting, from the University of Westminster, UK, and his research on the BBC's editorial independence is a notable contribution to media studies. Beyond broadcasting, he is a prolific writer with acclaimed books on Bangladeshi music and also numerous articles on media, communication, and culture. His leadership and expertise continue to shape Bangladesh Betar's evolution. And over now to Mohammed Anwar Hussain, who will give us a beautiful presentation on the role of radio in raising climate awareness. Over now to you, our very first speaker. We can't hear you. If you may switch on the microphone.
Yeah.
Perfect. Yes.
Hello.
Hello, we can hear you.
Yeah. Video of please give me 1 minute to. Excuse me, would you please give me 1 minute?
Sure.
Mr. Anwar, we can share your presentation from our end as well, if you want.
I think it will be overcome within a minute.
Okay, sure.
Okay.
So meanwhile, all the participants, they are so encouraged to ask any questions or share anything related to your recently observed World Radio Day as well, or your concerns regarding uh, the programming or the technical angle of broadcasting related to climate change or disaster preparedness or crisis reporting even. Yes, we can see. Yes, we can see the presentation now, sir.
Yes, this is Mohammad Anwar Hossain Mridha from Bangladesh. Good morning, good noon, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a great honor to be part of this session at AIBD Annual Radio Web Summit. Today, I will discuss how Bangladesh Betar, as the national public service broadcaster, plays a crucial role in raising awareness about climate risk and helping communities respond effectively. Do you listen my, hello?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay,
yes, we can listen you.
Yeah. Bangladesh is one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change, facing rising sea level, saline water intrusion, frequent cyclones, flood, and climate-induced displacement. Through radio broadcasting, community programs, and disaster communication, has a lifeline for millions. Bangladesh Betar started its journey in 1939. Since then, it has been a trusted source of information for the people. One of its earliest and most impactful program was Gramer Kotha, Village Talk, which focused on educating farmers about agriculture and rural development. This program was a pioneering initiative in using radio as a tool for education and awareness. Bangladesh has faced several devastating cyclones over the years, causing significant loss of life and property. Some of the most destructive cyclones includes Great Vola cyclone in 1970, total death around 300 to 500,000 people. In 1991 cyclone, over 138,000 deaths. Cyclone Cedar in 2007, 3,500 deaths. Cyclone Ayla 2009, 190 deaths. Cyclone Amphan 2020, 26 deaths. These disasters highlight the need for effective early warning system and public awareness campaigns. If we consider in Cedar case, which happened in 2007, it struck Bangladesh, one of the most worst cyclone in history. The country experienced a nationwide power outage for 3 days, cutting off communication in most areas. Bangladesh Betar was the only medium that remained operational, continuously broadcasting. It broadcast cyclone updates, evacuation instructions, post-disaster recovery guidance. This event highlighted the crucial role of radio in disaster management. Bangladesh Betar follows a structured approach in disaster response. It has 4 phases. First one, preparedness stage, raising awareness before disaster occur through educational program and early warnings. Alert or warning stage, the second one, broadcasting cyclones alert and government issued safety measures. And third stage, disaster stage, critical action taken during the disaster. Cyclone warning are disseminated every 30 minutes, while danger signals are updated every 15 minutes. Warning continues beyond normal broadcasting hours as directed by the Ministry of Disaster Management and Relief. Emergency directives from the Ministry of Local Authorities are broadcasted, ensuring smooth evacuation of people from high-risk areas. A special broadcast provides life-saving instructions covering rescue strategies, protection of belongings, and ensuring access to safe drinking water. And the fourth one, rehabilitation, reconstruction, and recovery stage, supporting affected communities, broadcasting programs to maintain morale among disaster-affected populations, providing information on short-term and long-term rehabilitation strategies to assist in rebuilding efforts. Bangladesh Betar's continuous role in disaster communication ensures timely information, reaching vulnerable communities, saving lives, and aiding recovery. Climate change significantly affects agriculture, which is the backbone of Bangladesh's economy. Bangladesh Betar, through its 14 regional stations, educate farmers on climate-smart agriculture, sustainable farming techniques, the impact of climate techniques on crop yielding. A popular program, Desh Amar Mati Amar, My Country, My Soil, it means in English, engages farmers, housewives, and teachers in discussions about agricultural challenges. How it works, community members discuss problems and share their own solutions. Experts then provide scientific solutions based on research and policy recommendations. This interactive format makes the program highly engaging and impactful. To make climate change awareness engaging, Bangladesh Betar also different formats, including music, drama, documentary, discussion, phone-in program, interview, and field reporting. This combination of education and entertainment ensures wider reach and impact. Bangladesh Betar remains committed to climate awareness and disaster preparedness through its innovative programs, community engagement, and real-time disaster updates. It empowers community about rising sea levels, saline water intrusion, climate refugees, cyclones, food, flood, heavy rainfall, landslides, river erosion. As climate threats continue to grow, Bangladesh Betar's role will only become more critical in safeguarding lives and livelihoods. Bangladesh Betar covers major national and international climate summits to keep the public informed about global climate policies. The program delivers summit highlights, decisions affecting Bangladesh, speech from key policymakers. By broadcasting these events, Bangladesh Betar ensure that even remote communities have access to crucial climate information. Bangladesh Betar actively promotes renewable energy by informing the public about solar power adoption for rural households, biogas plant as a sustainable alternative for cooking fuel, wind energy initiatives in coastal areas. This program helps people transition towards sustainable energy source and reduce their carbon footprint. Thank you very much. Thanks to all.
Thank you very much, Mohammed Anwar Hussain, for that very informative and detailed presentation on the role of Bangladesh Betar in raising climate risk awareness. And of course, you spoke about how important it is to incorporate about climate awareness through documentaries, music, drama, and also by having interviews and spreading awareness. Thank you very much. And I will now shift to our next speaker. We might shoot a few questions after all three speakers do their presentations. So, our next speaker is the Deputy Director of Voice of Nigeria, a seasoned media professional with over 2 decades in radio. From print to television and now radio, she's excelled as a reporter, producer, presenter, and also an editor. Her coverage spans environment, climate change, business, tech, politics, health, and also UN systems. Notable fellowships include biosciences for farming in Africa and UN Framework Convention on climate change. She's also a winner of prestigious awards, including UNFCCC and CDM Radio Contest. Over now to the Deputy Director of Voice of Nigeria, Ms. Ugonma Koke. Over now to you.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Nabil, could you please help with the presentation?
Sure, just a moment. Mr. Ipang, it's the other one of Ms. Agonma.
Sorry?
I think it's my presentation.
Yes, I was talking to my colleague. The other presentation from Ms. Agonma. Yes. Over to you, Ms. Agonma.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about using radio to inspire climate change. If you look at the picture at the beginning, it's a picture that was taken early this month by a colleague. And interestingly, it was taken in Abuja. Abuja is supposed to be Nigeria's capital. But you see that in that remote place, you can find one elderly man sitting by his radio and listening to the radio. That's how important radio can be, whether you're in the rural or urban area. Next slide. So we're looking at, first of all, we'll look at the importance of climate change awareness. Why are we interested in climate change awareness? First of all, we know it's a pressing global issue. And when we talk about global issue, it doesn't mean it doesn't affect us locally. It affects us locally in our different countries and in different dimensions. When people like us in Nigeria and some parts of Africa hear about cyclones and earthquakes and all that, it's and fire burning and all that, it's not what we see here all the time, but in our own different ways we experience climate change one way or the other. And another importance of climate change is that awareness is key. If we want to use radio to inspire climate change, then awareness is key, especially in behavior change. Just recently, I saw a video where I think it was a skit actually, but it was to teach people what to do, and people were throwing things out of the windows, and they eat, they throw cans, they drink, they eat, they throw papers, they drink, they throw cans out. And of course, it's on the road, and next thing, it blocks the drainages. And then when the rains come, we have floodings and all that. Somebody just decided on his own that it was too much. He told the driver to stop, got off the public bus, and started picking those things. The ones who threw them off saw him, came down, and started helping them to do that. That's the kind of thing that you can use radio to do, to inspire action and behavior change. And then radio can also play a crucial role in raising awareness and promoting education. We have instances where, because of the radio production, people have been educated on things related to climate change. Another reason is that climate change is a justice issue, in the sense that it has environmental justice angle, social justice angle, economic justice angle, indigenous rights angles, and intergenerational justice angles. And all of this, if you're looking at the environmental justice angle, you're looking at something like pollution, because climate change worsens pollution in low-income areas, and it creates some kind of health problem. For instance, in Nigeria, we have the gas flares in Nigeria that has been affecting a lot of people's health and all that. And then you have the access to clean water. You also have the drying of the Lake Chad and all that. You also have toxic waste also, that is a climate related disaster. For the justice, social justice, we have displacement and migration, because of the climate change issues. It drives people out of their region and they go to other places. And you have food insecurity caused by climate change. You have health disparities. When you talk about the economic justice, you're looking at economic inequality that is caused by climate change, which widens the disparity and the gap between the rich and the poor. You also have job displacement caused also by climate change. And then you have the climate debt, of course. Africa has a lot of climate debt and all of that. And then the indigenous rights, you have land rights that is caused by climate change because there's displacement. And so people move to other climes and it's my land, no, you migrated, and all of those things caused by climate change. And then for the intergenerational, we have something like sustainability. And then you have the youth activism. So all of these are climate-related justice things. So we know that climate change is also a rights issues. So why does radio matter? Why does radio matter in all of this? Radio matters because radio has wide reach and accessibility, like we just talked about. I just showed a picture from the Abuja thing. Radio reaches everywhere. If you check the picture there, it is a man on his farm. He could listen to his radio on his farm. There's nowhere you want to go to that you can't listen to radio. Not like where you say there's no interconnectivity, network is bad. Even in urban areas, we have bad networks. So radio is, why we use radio is because it has wide reach and accessibility. It's also cost effective and affordable. And then it's also engaging. When you use radio to talk with people, the warmness from the radio, the way the presenter does it, and then the programming also engages and makes the listener look like they are actually talking to somebody they know because of the warmth. And then also it can reach remote and marginalized community. It doesn't matter whether a community is remote or is marginalized, so long as it's radio will get there. Other medium may not get there. You may not have online, you may not have the television, but radio will definitely reach there. So how do we inspire people through using radio? We can do that through effective radio programming awareness. And what is usually better to do is to use engaging and interactive formats. And this format should have feedback. We have a lot of it on radio where you open lines and people talk, they ask questions, and you have resource people sitting there who respond to these questions. So it makes it interactive and engaging for the audience. So it's easy for them. And then if you want to also do this radio programming to inspire, it has to be, you have to incorporate local perspective. I just talked about gas flares now. While I'll do a radio programming and talk about cyclones and fires and all that, it would be better for me to emphasize more on the gas flares that is in Nigeria. Otherwise, if you do not give local perspective to these stories, you will lose your listener. And then you also provide actionable tips and solution. I gave also an example of a skit I saw. If it's on radio, you tell people, if you're going, pick up papers, pick up bottles on the floor, don't throw them into drainages. Those are actionable tips and solutions that you can give to people to prevent the adverse effects of floods when they come. And then you also utilize expert interviews and analysis. How do you do that? You invite people who are climate experts, you invite community leaders who are close to those people who understand what climate change is, and they talk about it and do an analysis of what that is. And then you also convert the problems and solutions by telling a story that is real. You don't go telling them abstract, because already climate change is an abstract thing, it's scientific. So if you don't bring it to the level of the people, you will lose them. So you tell the story and make it real, because if you present data alone, it will not help them. It will numb the audience. So what you do is, while you present this data, you also bring examples that they would understand, that are real to them. And then you also empower these people, let them know that they have the power to reflect change. Just like I said, this is your own part of the assignment. If you're leaving your house, for instance, switch off your light if no one is in the house. If you don't waste water and all of such information, they know that they can also switch power off from their house when they are not using it. They don't waste water. That is what they can do as individuals. So when you're doing this radio programming, you empower them, and then you use innovative formats and approaches that engage these people. And also let them know that climate change affects their livelihood. They should know there's a link between what they do daily and climate change. And then there's a link to justice, like we've said, like I've explained earlier about justice. So I'm going to give 2 case studies, and funny enough, I picked 2 from Zimbabwe. The case studies of examples of programming that has inspired action on climate change. First, we have that of Evinai Sakorombe, who is a presenter with is a radio host with Power FM in Zimbabwe. She started a program, and initially when she started, it was difficult because the language you have in climate change, sometimes because it's scientific, you have to break it down to the level of the individuals. It was difficult for her initially, but she found a way of translating it into local languages, into breaking down those languages. And before you knew it, people who weren't interested in our program before started calling in, started asking questions. And because the program was interactive, people could ask about their concerns. And before you knew what was happening, everybody could relate with what was happening. And they were calling in to find out things about how they can deal with their climate change issues. And then you have John Kashim, who is a journalist too, but was called to come and work with Met Africa. By the time he got there, like Avinay, it was difficult, but he also devised a way for himself. The first time he started, it wasn't easy for him. Then at the point he now started listening, doing things, and before he knew it, youths started calling him to find out about the program. And then a particular group too called him to find out what they can do about issues. And before you knew it, people started listening to that program. And interestingly, a geography teacher called Michael picked that program and was making his students listen to the program and giving feedback on the program. Aside the ones the students were giving to the radio station, they were also giving to the teacher. So he was using that, and they started what is now the MET Africa's Future project. So with that, so many people started listening to the program, and it had impact to the point that a listener survey was conducted in 2023, and it reviewed 638 responses. And the key findings include that 90% of respondents report that the climate action radio provided new information about how to take care of the environment. 89% of respondents feel the radio program had led to changes in their behavior, and 81% of respondents also felt the youth talk radio had helped them in conversations between adolescents and caregivers. So that was how that program inspired climate action. So in conclusion, making radio relevant to climate change, what we have said as summary is that radio is a powerful tool for raising awareness and promoting education on climate change, and that effective radio programming is key to inspire action and behavior change. The case studies also have explained. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is call to action. Whatever programming we're doing on radio, let's make it relevant to climate change, awareness, and inspire sustainable future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gonma Koki, for that very interesting presentation on how we could use radio to inspire climate change. And thank you very much for also highlighting the importance of radio, because we are in a, I mean, this year, or when we look at the current situation, we see a lot of people getting involved in social media. Then again, there's television. So sometimes, people blindly say that, nobody listens to the radio, but people do. And thank you very much for highlighting the importance of radio and how people can access this very easily, and also for taking us through a couple of case studies, which really gave us an idea as to how much radio can do. And this brings me to our next speaker. And in the meantime, I'd like to remind our participants that if you have any questions to pose at our speakers, you may message us, and we'll ask the speakers the questions right after the next presentation. So let me introduce the next speaker to you. And our next speaker is a station director, Hyderabad, BBC, Pakistan. And he is a seasoned media professional with a specialized focus on environmental journalism and climate change communication. Holding a PhD in climate change communication, he's actively involved in curriculum development and also media research, exploring topics such as environmental journalism and climate change communication. He has published his findings in reputable academic journals, and with extensive experience in reporting on environmental and climate change related issues, as well as disaster situations, he has been covering these critical topics since 2002. We're honored to have you with us. And over now to Dr. Ali Akbar, Station Director at Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation, Hyderabad. Dr. Ali Akbar?
Can you listen me now, please?
Oh, yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for introducing me and providing opportunity to present my presentation at this prestigious forum. Thank you. Good morning, good afternoon to everyone. So, Nabil, can you help me running my slides, please? Okay. So, my topic is the role of Radio Pakistan in disaster communication and climate change awareness. So, we all know that our world is facing a climate crisis. And this crisis is not only a challenge for humanity as a whole, but this is a challenge for communication as well. tackle this crisis and to help communities to adopt and to mitigate and to face this crisis. So can we go to the next slide, please? So as my other speakers also mentioned that during a disaster, when there is a breakdown of communication networks and there is an information vacuum, radio really becomes a lifeline for the affected communities to get vital information related to saving their lives, protecting their assets, and evacuation related information, which is highly necessary at the time when disaster occurs. And also, the job of radio is not only to provide news, but it also provides guidance and hope at the time of crisis and disaster. Similarly, as a media academician, media researcher, and an environmental journalist, I think radio is the most effective communication tool, even in this age, to reach out to remote communities, to bridge the communication gaps related to climate change. And it is the most effective tool to raise awareness about climate change adaptation. So the role of radio is very important in terms of climate crisis. As far as the role of Radio Pakistan is concerned, Radio Pakistan is a national broadcaster of Pakistan, and it has always played a critical, vital role in providing vital information to the communities, to the affected communities during the disasters. And if we talk about last 2 decades, Pakistan has faced several climate change induced disasters during past 2 decades, and country is considered as one of the most vulnerable countries to climate change. During these times, Radio Pakistan had been trusted source of verified information to the affected communities, and it has played a vital role in disaster preparedness, providing information during the disaster, post-disaster, rehabilitation, recovery phase. So during all this disaster communication process, Radio Pakistan's role has been acknowledged in several research studies. And what radio do during the disaster, first of all, as I mentioned, that it provides vital information. Disaster always comes with breakdown of communication infrastructure, and as they create devastation in other areas, they also create information vacuum. So first thing, or the most important thing which the survivors or affected communities need is information to evacuate to safer places, information to get relief, information to protect their assets, information to further prepare for more outbreaks or upcoming disastrous situation. So this vital information is provided by media, but in most, radio provides this information in most effective manner, in even to the communities which lives in far-flung areas. And radio provide local context to this information. Radio provides relevant information which is relevant in local context as well. Radio also bridges the communication gap. When I say communication gap, there are different types of communication gaps which radio fills during the times of disaster. The communication gap between the affected communities and the authorities, communication gap between the affected communities and the relief agencies, and also radio fills the communication gap between knowledge and action. In terms of climate science or climate science communication, radio translate this information to local communities. For example, Radio Pakistan provide transmission in more than 23 languages of Pakistan. And when when we talk about climate science, climate science terminology, climate science concepts, the broadcasters of Radio Pakistan translate this information in 23 languages for communities living from northern mountainous region to the desert region of Tharparkar. So in this way, these broadcasters are not only providing information, but they are contributing in creating climate change dictionaries in local languages in a way. So in this way, radio plays a highly important role in bridging the communication gap as far as disaster communication is concerned, as far as climate change communication is concerned. Radio Pakistan always we regularly broadcast contingency plans, disaster risk reduction strategies. In this way, we help the communities at risk to prepare in advance. We highlight their vulnerabilities. We highlight the opportunities. So we also communicate early warning. Every radiation, recently I saw some news that even in this get access to early warnings. So in this context, radio and Radio Pakistan in context of Pakistan is playing a highly important role. Can you go to the next slide, please? And I will talk about inclusive disaster communication. Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation has a network of FM, AM radio stations, medium wave radio stations, which broadcast programs in different languages, in almost 23 languages of Pakistan. In this way, we ensure inclusive disaster communication, because different people living in different ecosystems, people living in different regions can have different information needs related to climate change. So we fulfill their information needs through our network of stations located in different regions of the country, which are again connected with our national network. Can we go to the next slide, please? As I mentioned, that Pakistan Broadcasting Corporation provide transmission in 23 languages. Radio Pakistan is the only media outlet which represent the linguistic diversity of Pakistan. We broadcast in programs which include environmental information related to disasters in more than 23 languages. Can we go to the next slide? It is vitally important in context of climate change communication to provide the people information in local languages, in local context. Because we have to promote community-led climate change adaptation. We have to ensure inclusive discourse, inclusive discussion about climate change. In this context, community radio stations play a highly important role. They are not only engaged the experts, opinion leaders belonging to different regions in their programs, but they also highlight the indigenous knowledge of people, of communities who are living with the nature for centuries and who have their own experiences to deal with the climate change. So in this way, radio stations, community radio stations, regional radio stations, a network of radio stations help in bridging the gap between indigenous knowledge and the expert opinion. So this is the role of radio. And I will mention few case studies. As I mentioned that during different disaster situations, radio has played a historical role. During 2005, Pakistan suffered from a devastating earthquake, especially its region, Azad Kashmir, and adjoining areas faced a devastating disaster. And during, in immediate aftermath of the disaster, around 3.5 million people had no access to vital information. Vital information, I mean how they can protect themselves, how can they go to the safer places where they can get relief. And and definitely when earthquake hit this region, infrastructure of Radio Pakistan was also damaged, and staff of Radio Pakistan also suffered casualties. But our organization and our staff, our broadcasters, were very quick to reorganize their resources, reorganize themselves in missionary manner, and we started our transmission from Muzaffarabad and other radio stations, and filled this communication gap. You can see several research studies highlighting the important role of Radio Pakistan during the earthquake. Even some of the studies are mentioned on the website of UNDRR, which mentions the radio played a highly important role from beginning from the immediate aftermath of the disaster, and continuing towards the rehabilitation process, as radio also aided during the rehabilitation process. And Pakistan, northern area, people living in northern areas of Pakistan are highly vulnerable to glacial lake outburst floods, because Pakistan has the largest share of glaciers after the polar region. So in this context, role of radio becomes very important, as climate change is causing glacier melting and related disaster. In this context, in 2010, Pakistan faced a disaster which was caused by landsliding, and debris of that landsliding blocked the flow of river, and a lake emerged near Athabad, Hunza Valley, and the water level in the lake started increasing rapidly, and it created a threat for the communities living in the region. And there was a communication gap, which was a big hurdle in the way of a rescue operation. Radio Pakistan immediately established a radio station in Balti Fort near Hunza, Athabad village, and this radio station helped the rescue operation and filled the communication gap, filled the information vacuum, and helped the rescue operation to continue. In the similar way, Pakistan faced devastating floods in 2010 and 2011, and the role of radio was highly important, and radio played a historical role from providing early warning to the people, to the communities, and then about the contingency plans, and then coming to the evacuation process, because radio was the trusted source of communities living along with the Indus River. So they trusted radio, information provided on radio regarding the evacuation, and they implemented it. So Radio Pakistan made several new experiments. We took new initiatives. For example, a mobile radio station was established, and it traveled along with the super flood, and provided transmission from different regions, and it was again connected with the national network. So in this way, radio helped during those flood situations. During the COVID-19, broadcasters of radio translated the emerging scientific information in more than 20 languages of Pakistan, and provided this information to the people. Even more recently, during 2022, Pakistan faced a devastating floods, and I was looking at some research study which was published in Critical Social Review research journal recently, and which highlighted that radio played an effective role regarding disaster communication, especially in rural areas. So these were the few examples which I quickly mentioned, a few case studies. Otherwise, we continue our broadcasting regarding disaster preparedness and disaster communication. Next slide, please.
Also, Dr. Ali, we have reached the
Okay,
time,
I will be very
limit as
quick.
well.
I will be very quick now. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
So please, sorry. So we ensure, as I mentioned, we ensure inclusive disaster communication through broadcasting in different languages and different formats. For example, we broadcast daily programs in rural program, which is broadcast in rural style, in chit chat manner, which is very common to people. In the similar way, we provide environmental information in a special audience program, which is children program, women program, local news, climate podcast to cater the information needs of our audience on digital media. Next slide, please. We promote in our program, we promote anticipatory action, which is very important as far as disaster communication is concerned. And we engage local stakeholders, experts in discussion at national, provincial, and district level, and discuss the national disaster response plan, provincial disaster response plan, and at district level, the contingency plan in those programs. Next slide, please. So I think as a media academician and broadcaster, as a journalist, I think radio has to play a very important role in behavioral communication initiatives, highlighting indigenous knowledge, climate education, climate awareness, especially climate resilient agriculture. We are regularly broadcasting programs in our agricultural broadcast, which are now more focused on climate resilient agriculture, climate smart agriculture, and sustainable agricultural practices. Next slide, please. I will conclude with on this note that radio can provide this information in different formats, which are more familiar to people. In this way, we can get attention of the people, because science communication is a complex communication, complex form of communication. What we do now on in our program is that we, in a few programs, we invite experts. Like you can see on the screen a sticker of one program in which we had invited director of environmental studies on World Wetland Day. Similarly, we are broadcasting entertainment material which contain environmental and climate change related information. Next slide, please. For example, we are producing environmental songs which contain information related to climate change crisis and environmental issues and local environmental issues. So you can see slide related to a song which we produced on World Environment Day. So in this way, Radio Pakistan is playing its role in ensuring an inclusive disaster communication and providing climate education, climate awareness to people. Nabil, can we play the clip on? Okay, please. So this is just one clip with which I will end my presentation. It is an environmental song in Sindhi language. I think it's not.
We cannot hear the audio of the song.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know what is wrong with it. So this is all from me regarding the role of Radio Pakistan related to disaster communication and climate change awareness programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ali Akbar, for highlighting the role of Radio Pakistan. You spoke about inclusivity when it comes to reporting and how important it is to translate into several languages. So this brings me to a very quick question from all the speakers we had today who discussed mainly on the role of radio in raising climate awareness. So since we are with you right now, Doctor, if you can, in brief, let us know about how radio stations can collaborate with climate scientists and environmental organizations to improve reporting.
Yes, this is very important. One of the aspect of my PhD research study was also related with the communication gap between a journalist and a scientist. We have to bridge this gap to provide scientific information to the people, because scientific information related to climate change has to come from the scientists. So in this way, we had made several initiatives at Radio Pakistan, in which we engaged the people who are doing PhD, MPhil in environmental sciences or climate resilient agriculture, and then interviewed them during our programs regarding their new findings. For example, we had produced several programs related to new seeds of crops which are more resilient to the rising temperatures. In this way, we have to bridge communication gap. We have to establish a liaison with the experts. Similarly, recently we had a project with the Food and Agriculture Organization, in which we not only produce talk shows with their help, but we also produce songs, even dramas, which contain scientific information as well as the entertainment material. So in this way, we have to bridge this gap. I think to some extent a gap exists, because scientists conduct research studies, they get them published in research journals, but they are not highlighted in the media. So we have to take initiative, especially to highlight local research during our programs, during in different media outlets. At the same time, we have also has to highlight the community knowledge, indigenous knowledge, which is very important again, because they have a vast experience of dealing with the nature. So we have to take these initiatives to make our role more effective in future.
Thank you very much, Doctor. And also, this brings me to the next question. I would like to speak to Mr. Anwar Hussain. You did focus a lot on how radio can improve reporting by including interviews and also music and through documentaries. So, Anwar, what strategies have proven effective in combating climate misinformation on radio platforms?
Actually, misinformation is a very big issue. When social media is operating, it causes severe misinformation, disinformation. But usually, during natural calamities like cyclone, like flood, during cyclone, actually all kinds of broadcasting stops except radio. So radio only can broadcast. So in that case, misinformation, disinformation can be overcome. In the case of flood, it is that during the time the social media operates, so some people may disseminate misinformation, disinformation. In that case, usually what happens in Bangladesh, in a survey, in a recent survey, in a recent research, it has been found that most of the Bangladeshi people or citizen of this country rely on Bangladesh Betar during natural calamities. Beyond other subjects, during natural calamities, they only depend on Bangladesh Betar. In that case, we can avoid it. And secondly, usually we have some programs like community-based, like discussion program, having experts' thoughts, having indigenous people or local people having dialect of that region so that they can understand Bangladesh better very nicely. And thirdly, there may be some regional conflict, regional separations, say from one region to another region. They have some different customs, different culture, different way of learning, different way of disseminating. In that case, we also use, actually Bangladesh Better has 14 regional stations. So we usually disseminate local culture at the same time. So during broadcasting on flood or cyclone or natural calamities, we use all these tools. So the technology, at the same time, local dialect, and thirdly, media professionals, and different formats of program. It overcomes the misinformation and disinformation as well.
Absolutely. Thank you so much,
You're
Anwar
welcome.
Hussain, for highlighting that and what Bangladesh does in terms of avoiding misinformation. And finally, I would like to ask Ms. Yugonma, how can radio broadcasters make climate change a regular and engaging topic for their audiences? Because you spoke about inspiring people and also about the importance of radio, but when it comes to daily shows, how can they incorporate this? Miss Yuganma?
Sorry, I didn't
Yes.
unmute. Yes.
Oh, sorry.
How we can do that, first and foremost, is how many radio stations know the importance of the environment and climate change? That's where to start. We need to know that it's important as the air we breathe. Then when we know that, we now incorporate it into our programs, not just our program formats alone, in our news programs. Like what we have in my station, for instance, we have news commentary, and we broadcast in 8 languages. If you have that news commentary and there are climate change issues, if news commentaries are done regarding those climate change issues, and since they are going to be broadcast in those 8 languages, it helps to pass messages across to people. So we should ensure that when we also do that, sometimes we allow experts to write these news commentaries, even though we vet at the end of the day, so it's not too technical for the people you are passing those messages across to understand. So in our programming, we have to find a way of making it interactive so that there's opportunities for the listener to ask questions, for experts to be able to respond to those questions. When we incorporate that and it's being done in a way that, of course, radio, we know the language must be as simple as possible. When you keep saying things like all the scientific things, we know that, like we know climate change is science reporting. You have to break it down to the level of the common man. Yes, you speak your scientific jargon, but you break it down to the points that they can understand. Once there's an understanding that what they are saying relates to me, like I said when I was talking, you have to link it to their daily lives. You have a pollution somewhere caused by a gas flare, caused by oil spills and all that, and is affecting them. You need to tell them. Sometimes their fishes, their means of livelihood is gone. They can't farm, they can't fish. You let them know that this is the implication of going to that river to catch a fish. This is the implication of going to that river to take water to drink and all of that. So if you break that down to the level of the rural people, not just the urban people, I think it will encourage them to listen to your program and as much as possible also understand these things so that they can change their behaviors.
You're muted, Sharifa.
I hope you can hear me now. Yes.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Godma, for sharing your opinion on how we could include inclusive reporting and also about letting people know from a layman's point of view as well. Thank you very much to all our speakers, Mohammed Anwar Hussain, Mr. Godma Koki, and Dr. Ali Akbar for being a part of this session, which was on the role of radio in raising climate awareness. And with that, we've come to the end of the session. So we'd like to take a group photograph. So I'd like to request all the speakers to please switch on your cameras. And
All right.
I guess Nabil will be doing the honors. Over to you.
Okay, so on the count of 3, 2, 1. Oh, just a moment. Okay, 3, 2, 1. Oh, just a moment. So many things are happening. Okay, sorry. 3, 2, 1. And all right, perfect. Thank you very much.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
so
Over to you, Nabil.
all right, thank you very much. And it was indeed information-packed session. And now we'll be moving very quickly towards the session 2. So I would like to thank all the speakers from session 1. And I would like to introduce the moderator of session 2, who is none other than Mr. Sailesh Kumar from Fiji. And Mr. Ipang, if you can share his profile slide as well. So, Mr. Sailesh Kumar is a seasoned broadcaster from Fiji, a distinguished former radio journalist and TV presenter, and is known for his multifaceted expertise and exceptional contributions to the field of media. With a career spanning several years, Mr. Kumar has established himself as a respected figure in the Fijian media industry, garnering accolades both locally and internationally for his outstanding achievements in education and media. Mr. Sailesh Kumar, the great is yours, sir.
Thank you, Nabil. Welcome to all the participants and the speakers who are going to join us for session number 2. And this session is titled Innovative Community Radio Practices for Sustainability. Community radio is a vital tool for grassroots mobilization, especially in remote and marginalized communities. Unlike mainstream media, community stations provide hyper local content, giving a voice to people directly affected by climate change. From promoting sustainable farming to documenting environmental challenges, community broadcasters are at the forefront of climate action. In this session, we will explore innovative ways community radio is addressing the topic, which is sustainability, and our panelists will discuss groundbreaking initiatives, technological advancements, and how these practices can be scaled or replicated in other regions. So we have a lineup of esteemed speakers, and they will be introduced before they will speak. But before I introduce our first speaker for session number 2, let me remind the speakers of the time frame. So requesting that if you can be within the time frame that is allocated to you, and participants who may have questions, please kindly use the chat box. So let me introduce the first speaker for session number 2, and he is Mr. Rob Hopkins, a community radio broadcaster from Canada. Rob Hopkins is a communications pirate with a mission to keep our airwaves accessible. Trouble is, he's an analog guy in a digital world, fighting for public's right to something they likely don't even want. So Rob is many things. He is sorry for that. He is an ex-hobo and a self-taught broadcast engineer, a scavenger who built a working telephone system from other people's junk, and an advocate of over-the-air technologies who collects CRTC licenses like hockey cards. He's so enthusiastic that he's even developed his own software to make analog broadcasting easier. With those words of introduction, I invite Mr. Hopkins.
You're muted.
All right. Try that. Hey, everyone. Sorry about that. Good to meet everybody again. I see lots of familiar faces in here. I'm presently working in this winter in Thailand. I reside up in the Yukon Territory up in northern Canada beside Alaska. Historically, two major things happened up there. There was the Klondike Gold Rush in 1898, and then the building of the Alaska Highway in 1942 to connect the lower 48 to Alaska in anticipation of the Japanese invasion in World War II that never happened. In Canada, we have 634 distinct Indigenous groups with around 20 dialects still spoken today. And these Indigenous groups never had a written language, so everything's on an oral tradition and stories. This makes radio a really effective medium for sharing information and about things that go on in the community. One group close to me has stories about a community dinner and how they trapped a mammoth, a woolly mammoth. That's like a giant elephant. So that must have been a really big feast in those days. They went extinct like 10,000 years ago. Trends in the far north right now for climate are milder temperatures and slightly more precipitation. Warm in the Arctic is a concern because it's releasing methane gases, and that's a bad thing for the environment. And we have permafrost melting and glaciers melting as well. Side effects for not having extreme cold, it doesn't penetrate the trees, and inside the middle of the tree we have these spruce beetles, and so they kill all the trees, and that has a big fire hazard. I worked on a fire in the Yukon that went on for 2 years. You know, the challenges we have of forest fires are losing properties, infrastructure, and homes. Additionally, these events cause food insecurity. When our groceries are delivered, they come from 2,000 kilometers away by truck. And sometimes the roads are shut down for days, sometimes weeks. The entire Yukon territory runs out of food in 3 days. You know, unsustainable weather systems have also contributed to mining disasters, triggering landslides, which released millions and millions of liters of toxic tailings. Some of them are methyl mercury, potassium cyanide that gets into the pristine water systems forever. You know, I really like radio. Radio is an accessible media. You don't need any passwords. You don't need an account. You don't need a smartphone. You just need a simple little FM radio and some batteries. You know, in order for radio to survive, we have to keep radio relevant. And we're competing with some of the big social media things, you know, Facebooks, YouTubes for audience share. And right now, the next generation, we're already here right now, it's all full of fake news and AI generated content. Radio still has a role as a trusted medium where you can hear local news and information from sources and people that you know and trust. You know, the stuff on Facebook, it's all fake now. The videos, you don't even know what's real there and stuff. You know, I'm really lucky. I've been able to travel in remote communities and go to neat places all over the Arctic. It's been really, really interesting in getting into those communities. Normally, I wouldn't be able to afford to go into those communities. And I set up little radio stations, Indigenous communities, and I do training with open source technologies. You know, these tools, this allows those Indigenous communities to use web accessible streaming media libraries with scheduled playlists, and they can share the metadata that they get from those systems. You know, one of the other things which is really neat is in Canada, we have mandatory carriage of emergency alerts so that if you know, there's a fire or a flood, it automatically cuts in and broadcasts a message from the government. Some of those types of things will be forest fires, floods, lost children, sometimes wild animals in the neighborhood. You know, some of the stations we have up in the north they're using open source software, that's freely available, and that software can run on repurposed computers, on different machines that come out of the dump, all the way up to some pretty cool technologies like Raspberry Pis. Those little Raspberry Pis, there's one of them into here. It was like a $35 computer, does everything that can run a little radio station. And what's really neat about this emergency alerting system that we have in Canada is that the government provides it as a free service, and they provide the alerts in both of our official languages, which is French and English. And our technologies that we develop can also broadcast those emergency messages in the local Indigenous languages. Some of you have traveled around as I have, and if you were in a country, let's say China, and an emergency alert happened and it was all in Chinese, you would have no clue what's going on in that community. So having the emergency alerts in the language that you can understand is really, really important. Climate change is a real threat to everybody, and all over the world. And so we have to figure out how to keep those emergency messages being able to go around and have them from a trusted source as well. So that's going to keep our emergency. It's going to keep our radio industry still relevant. So thank you very much for inviting me to this, and I'm always happy to share information about emergency alerting and open source technologies in Canada.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins, for your wonderful presentation, talking about climate challenges and also, some of the successful initiatives about how to, take emergency messages across. And you have rightfully said that radio to date is an accessible media in any geographical landscape. So once again, thank you for the presentation. We will have questions at the end of the session when all the three presenters have completed with their presentations. Let's move on to the next presenter, Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy, who is a community media specialist from India. Dr. Sridhar boasts over 4 decades of experience across radio and television, specializing in production, science communication, and the revolutionary field of community radio. Revered as its father, he established the first station in Anna University and served as director of IGNOU's Media Center while holding senior positions at Doordarshan and All India Radio. His expertise extends to award-winning documentaries, and he even played a pivotal role in shaping the very guidelines for community radio in India, solidifying his legacy as a true pioneer in this field. So with these words, let's welcome Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy.
Namaskar. Thank you very much for a nice introduction. Thank you, AIBD and Dr. Philo Nabil for inviting me to share. I've been listening and watching for the past 1.5 hours the experiences of the radio broadcasters throughout the world. And even though the subject of this session is sustainability and innovative methods of community radio, as usual during disasters, what happens is communication gap or communication miscommunication or something parallel communication. So I had prepared the slides for the Indian experience of the disasters and what we are doing presently. And then I will also add a few words after I heard the Canadian broadcaster talking about the AI and $35 computer come radio station, etc. I would also like to share some views at the end. May I request AIBD to put on my slides, please? Okay, this is first slide. So radio in times of climate crisis. It's common for all over the world. Nothing's specific for India, but India has got 1.4 billion people, which is almost 25% of the world's population. Therefore, it's more important. Next slide, please. You see, I had an experience in 1972, 74, when there are two cyclones which came within a week or so, and then it damaged a few beautiful island, which the epic Ramayana used to project as the god Ram went to Sri Lanka through that place. That whole island was washed out. And another, within 2 days or 3 days of the cyclone, another train which was washed out, even though the train was 35 kilometers away from the sea. At that time, I was just to join the radio station, but I heard an announcement in my radio. Since the communication facilities between the weather office, that's the meteorological office, has failed, we are closing down today's transmission, and then we will meet you again tomorrow morning. That was the situation about 30 years back, 40 years back, 50 years back. Today, the moment you know the cyclone is coming from Singapore, from the Bay of Bengal, when it comes to the Andaman Nicobar Islands, then all of us in the entire eastern coast of India are ready. The entire forces are ready. Entire special protection groups are ready. Disaster management groups are ready, and then we are able to bring people away from the shore and the. So that's the thing. So we need to have in the radios pre-disaster plans, pre-disaster cyclones, floods, landslides, pandemic, terrorist attacks. I'm including terrorist attacks because they are man-made disasters. During disaster, what are we supposed to do and what we are supposed to do in post-disaster? So I told you an example of the radio just without knowing their responsibility closing down. Then there is also during a disaster, when the whole communication fails, someone has got a small signal in mobile phone and he gets WhatsApp messages, which never happened. Maybe it has happened in Indonesia or Philippines. The fake people just put it as though it has happened and then create panic. So at that time, the only way to communicate is the radio. Next, and then post-disaster is this. It's a political will and administrative skills, how we are going to do reconstruction, how the radio is going to help them in reconstruction. That's a third point. Next slide, please. All these things, okay. The information on precautionary measures, tools to be prepared, preparedness, advocate for risk reduction. All these things I talk to you right now. Next slide, please. Hotlines. This is what I want to settle down. That gave me an idea at that time when I was just a young fellow joining the radio. Then I went to the next police wireless office. And then from then onwards, the moment a cyclone is appearing or going to start, there will be a police wireless station set up between the All India Radio and the police headquarters as well as from the administrative headquarters, so that the communication will never fail between the three places. So we need to have hotlines. We need to have alternate sources of electricity now that we are all well advanced in solar energy. But during cyclones, during monsoons, I don't think you will get much of enough sunlight. So we need to have generators and polluting generators like diesel generator. And we need to have solar panels. And the authorities, disaster management authorities, must also keep it in mind that radio is a prime requirement for disseminating information, and they should include it in their plans. They do include public address systems, etc., satellite connectivity, satellite phones and all, but they don't include the radio. So we are specifying the radio should have a primary space. I told you the radio station example in 70s and 90s. There is a fire accident in a multi-storied building about in the 90s. One fellow the old man was stuck up in the 10th floor. He does not know how to come out to exit. So somebody ordered an helicopter. Helicopter came with very big fans and the fire only spread. So I used to make a suggestion that instead of calling the Air Force, they should have called the All India Radio. So then we could have heard the ding. We could have guided him to come out safely. Next, please. Next. Okay, we should be able to use police and defense wireless without any bureaucratic hurdle. We should be able to use ham radio operators. And then, wind up radio. Just now, our expert told us about a radio with $35, but we should have that. I have already suggested in my papers that the first person, the relief person who lands in the helicopter or by the ship or by the boat, he should also carry about 100 radio sets or 200 radio sets and one mobile transmitter, so that he starts transmitting it and the people are able to listen to that in a wind-up radio. So it should be part and parcel of, like, they carry cotton, they carry medicines, paracetamol and other medicines, immediate medicine. Along with that, they should carry a mobile transmitter as well as some low-cost radio sets. And also, we need to ship the transmitter 2 days earlier, 3 days earlier, if you feel that your radio station also will be affected by the floods. Next, please. Next, please. Enough training to radio station staff and volunteers about climate crisis management, which it never happens. All over disaster management training camps are there, certificate courses there, diploma courses there. A lot of training happens to the volunteers, policemen, etc. But I have never heard of radio station people being called to these camps and to give them training about crisis management. And also, we should reversely, we should also train volunteers and home guards and other people who assist the police and etc., army, etc., to operating a radio station also. We should have trained manpower to operate a radio station. If the radio station staff are affected, they cannot come to the radio station. These people should be able to operate the radio station. Next, please. Next, please. Okay, we have put it. I think somebody else is also in Fiji. Also, I've seen a similar thing. How do you prepare? Just don't give any sermons or speeches. Then do it like a drama, documentary, songs. The messages can be very nicely. This is pre-disaster. You can create an awareness crisis management by use of radio documentaries, radio dramas, or radio songs. Next, please. The same thing, experiences, stories. How did they save the people? When a stampede happens, how did they save the people? So their experiences will be helpful to other people also. And then organize events. Radio station itself can organize events, giving importance to how they cover disasters, etc. Networking. And then I have been a very fanciful statement, I don't know, with Elon Musk's Starlink, etc., that's going to be very easy. We said a satellite triggered, solar powered, small radio stations. Now you have thousands of satellites by Starlink, so that you are going to get an internet directly. Similarly, you should be able to have thousands of small transmitters all over the thing, and which are networked through satellites and fiber, so that if one station fails, another station will be able to broadcast it. An example of in India was 1984, when we had the biggest Bhopal gas tragedy. The radio station was in the gas emitting area, but the nearest radio station was about 100 kilometers away, but that was a very powerful station. So they took over the messages and started broadcasting it today. Therefore, networking is very, very important. Next slide, please. And then, as I told you, we need to ensure 24/7 transmission come what may. And we should be able to run the radio station nowadays. After COVID, we know how to run the radio station remotely with apps. And then we should not create panic. Example is a good example of 9/11 and also in 26/11 in India. And the one point I want to stress is no adventure journalism during disaster days. People are all making fun of themselves in many across the world when these floods comes, when this typhoon, cyclones come. These fellows, the journalists go and having a raincoat and having a microphone and going in the boat and all. This is called adventure journalism, which is not needed. Next, please. And after telling how to help the victims in searching for missing people, evacuating internally displaced person. So we have a lot of programs for migrant labor, but we don't have programs for internally displaced person. It happens in every disaster, every climate crisis. It happens a lot of internally displaced person. And then taking care, distributing, logistic, and taking care of children and women. Focus on distribution and day-to-day progress of the crisis handling. We don't want to talk about the future. We don't want to talk about the past during crisis. We need to talk about what is needed, where will they get the food, where will they get the medical aid, where will they get the shelter. That's what's more important. Next slide, please. I'll go fast now. Extent of disaster. Advice about action to be taken, evacuation, tips to get water, address the needs of survivors and medical aid, relief goods, encourage survivors to stock. Next, please. It's happening. Help the law enforcement authorities concentrate on rehabilitation. And then, in these days, fact check news and give counter to fake news is also important, very, very important during crisis management. Next, please. Then, okay, reconstruction, we can make appeal for financial assistance, temporary housing, and then talk about the UN plans, etc. Next, please. And then everybody has been stressing the point. When everything fails, radio is the only reliable. I will say community radio is the only reliable medium. Next, please. And then let us first batch of rescue personnel. I've already talked who reaches the affected places, carry with them a low-powered FM transmitter. Let them carry a few thousand cheap solar-powered radio sets. Next, please. Start broadcasting from ground zero. Next, please. Community radio and climate management. That can be a tie-up between CR and the ER. Next, please. I'll have to fast, going fast. Radio is the best communication tool which is easily available in disaster awareness. Also needed a comprehensive training and DRR broadcast for radio personnel, as well as disaster relief staff and local volunteers. But the one point that I wanted to stress today is when artificial intelligence AI is taking over us, we don't know whether it is real news reader is reading the news, whether it's an AI. We have to fact check. So when we use the AI, we should also see the other side of the technology where people believe what they see and not what they listen. Therefore, even if a old video is run, they believe that rather than what we say. Therefore, radio, when it is going to become visual or when it is going to be digital, see that real visual images are also sent to the people along with the radio message so that they start believing our medium. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy, for your presentation, talking about the role of radio in times of emergency, especially climate crisis. and your personal experiences and the local examples from India definitely added value to the overall presentation. Thank you for the engaging PPT, explaining the processes, the pre, during, and post in climate crises, and also, highlighting the importance of ensuring connectivity. So reminding participants, if you have any questions, please use the chat box, and we will ask these questions at the end of the session when the third presenter has finished. With those words, let me invite our third presenter to session number 2, and he is Mr. Arjun Giri, President of EcoRab Nepal. Mr. Giri is the president of EcoRab Nepal, leading 360 plus community radio stations in strengthening grassroots journalism. With a commitment to media freedom, he advocates for inclusive broadcasting, digital transformation, and community engagement. His leadership empowers local voices, promoting social change and democratic values through Nepal's vibrant community radio network. With these words, let us welcome Mr. Arjun Giri.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sailesh, for the introduction. Namaste, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Today, I will be presenting on the topic of the role of radio during disaster. Sorry.
Mr. Giri, are you trying to share your presentation?
Mr. Salesh, if Mr. Arjun is while he's
I'm trying to share my presentation.
sure. While he's trying to share his presentation, Mr. Salesh, you may ask any questions to Dr. Sridhar as well, or Mr. Rob.
Okay, so while we are waiting for Mr. Giri to start his presentation, I request Mr. Hopkins if he's you have talked about, and I know you being the analog guy, quite away from digital world. My question is this: how can digital and mobile technology enhance the reach and impact of community radio for sustainability? Mr. Hopkins?
Okay, I guess Mr. Giri is now sharing the presentation, and
Okay.
we'll pose the question again back to Mr. Rob in a while.
Before
Here, try that.
Before starting the presentation about the role of radio during disaster, I want to highlight Nepal's disaster landscape. Nepal is one of the most prone to natural disaster in the world. Loss of nearly 2% of the nation's GDP in last year. 500 plus loss of life in a year due to the natural disaster. Over 80% of the population lives in areas prone to disaster risks. We face two main challenges during disasters for communication, which are geographical, language, and context. We all are very aware that communication plays a very important role during disaster as it gives rapid response, bridges information gap, and keeps lives saving information. Following that, radio is accessible to all, its timeless, gives public awareness and promote community engagement. Let's now to come main focus of this presentation, which is the role of radio during disaster, timely alert and warning to vulnerable population, a bridge between affected communities, government agencies, and organization, effective information flow between affected communities, government agencies, and aid organization, relief effort, and promoting self-help initiatives, combating rumors and false information that can hinder recovery efforts, platform for the sharing experience, and offering psychological support. AQRAB has been championing for the community resilience and sustainability since 2002. AQRAB is an umbrella organization of 382 community radio stations across all 7 provinces in Nepal. Plays a key role in disaster preparedness, response, and community resilience, empower local radio stations to provide crucial service during crisis, counters misinformation and promotes transparency, facilities facilities collaboration between communities, authorities, and relief organizations, ensure information reaches marginalized and vulnerable groups. I'd like to share some case studies where Akurab has had first-hand experience during a disaster. 2015 Nepal earthquake, Akurab mobilized community radio station to share vital information after the earthquake. Stations broadcast update on rescue operation, relief distribution, and safety measures, coordinated with BBC Media Action to air Milijuli Nepali across affected districts, ensure uh, consistent, consistent messaging, and efficient resource allocation, amplified the message on the earthquake residents, construction, and assessing housing grants. 2023 West Nepal earthquake, Akurab empowered local radio station after the earthquake, supported by UNESCO and UNDP. Station recovered, built resilience, and resumed service, enhanced communication among communities, authorities, and relief organizations. Radio provided accurate information, uh, countered misinformation, and promoted transparency during recovery, ensured vital aid reached marginalized groups while offering health information and psychological support. And 2024 uh, Thame flood. In August 2024, Nepal's Thame village witnessed a massive flood. It was caused by uh, glacial glacial lake outburst. The incident resulted in displacement of hundreds of people and damage of properties. This highlighted more role of radios in informing such disasters. I would like to also share some ongoing initiative of Akurab for disaster resilience, training community radios on weather communication and information system. Akurab is training 14 radio stations across Nepal on WCIS standard to enhance their capacity for timely disaster information dissemination, training 100 journalists after 2015 earthquake, collaboration with Raspberry Pi for early warning system. Akuria partner with Raspberry Pi to develop affordable early warning system enabling real-time monitoring of natural hazards like floods and landslide. Developing communication protocols. Akurab is creating standards communication protocols to ensure effective information delivery during emergencies, providing emergencies fund. Akurab allocate emergency fund to disaster-prone areas, supporting local radio station in maintaining operational capacity during crisis and facilitating timely relief efforts. After all these years of experience in radio broadcasting, we have learned that we need to acquire uh, uh, mm, invest in training and equipment for community radio station, develop clear communication channel and protocols for disaster situation, collaborate across stakeholders to ensure effective warning dissemination and coordination action, encourage community participation in radio programming and content creation, ensure that radio broadcasts are accessible to all segments of the population, including those with disabilities, advocate for a sustainable funding mechanism to support community radio operation, conduct risk assessment to target intervention in disaster prone region, and use community radio to reach isolated community during emergencies. Oddly, moving on to our innovative practice, Akurab empowered local radio station to independently resume service after disaster, enhancing their role in community resilience and information dissemination, conducts workshop to help community radio station develop disaster risk reduction DRR contingency planning plans, ensuring preparedness for emergencies, empowering marginalized group and fostering community resilience, partners with NGO and INGOs to produce localized content that raise awareness about disaster preparedness and response. uh, Received the World Summit on the Information Society Champion Prize 2024 for its significant contribution to disaster management and achieving sustainable development goals through information and communication technology. In conclusion, I want to say that uh, community radio plays a crucial role in saving lives and building resilience in disaster-prone Nepal. Let us work together to ensure that every community has access to timely and accurate information during times of crisis. And at last but not the least, this forum should be the beginning of our collaboration. Let us have more meaningful South-South cooperation. Thank you so much for giving me this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Arjun Giri, for your presentation talking about the role of radio during disaster and sharing your case studies and your personal stories from Nepal, especially of Ekorab, which plays a key role in disaster preparedness, response, and community resilience. So once again, this brings us to the end of session 3 with our 3 presenters, Mr. Rob Hopkins, Dr. Sridhar Ramamurthy, and Mr. Arjun Giri. We will have the 3 presenters up on the screen, and we will ask a question each. And I'll ask Mr. Rob Hopkins first. Since you are the analog guy in a digital world, the question is, how can digital and mobile technology enhance the reach and impact of community radio for sustainability?
Right. Thanks for that question. There's a couple of things. The first one is the emergency alerting protocol that I was describing is based on a global standard. It's called Common Alerting Protocol. And so just about every country in the world is using CAP alerting. You probably already have it in your countries. In Canada, for example, CAP works for FM radio, for TV, analog radio TV. It also is the technology that alerts mobile phones. So common alerting protocol. The other thing I'll say about this is that most countries already have a CAP feed that's provided by your government with your weather office. So the technology is already there that you can get your emergency alerts onto your radio and TV and your mobile thing. The mobile's a little bit more difficult to integrate, but the radio and television is actually quite easy. Your radio station will monitor that feed and then automatically interrupt and broadcast it. And so that brings in the best of analog and digital broadcasting and emergency alerting.
Thank you, Mr. Hopkins. The next question is for Dr. Ramamurthy. So how can community radio integrate indigenous knowledge and local environmental practices into programming?
So we have been the greatest disaster in the past 20-25 years was the tsunami in 2004, which affected Thailand, Indonesia, Philippines, and India. At that time, the fishermen in some of the villages were able to forewarn the people. And there's a very big foundation called M.S. Swaminathan Foundation, who won the Norman Borlaug Award earlier, long back. And they were able to, because they said, we know the tsunami is coming. So what you have said is very correct. We should try to understand the local knowledge even the animals' behavior at that time was to be documented. So we need to document them. And it's not much work has been done, as far as I know, in my part of the country, where we have gone far ahead in technology, but not in understanding the traditional knowledge of these things. I think we should do much more than that.
Thank you, Dr. Ramamurthy. And the final question is for Mr. Arjun Giri. To prepare the community, definitely we also need to prepare our youths. So how can community stations engage young audiences in climate discussions? So I'll repeat the question one more time. Yeah. So because we are trying to prepare the communities, and an integral part of the community is the youth. So how can community stations engage young audiences in climate discussions, especially with your example from Ecorab?
Yeah, we form a group. We involve youth groups in content operations.
Thank you. So once again, this brings us to the end of session number 2, and thank you to the 3 esteemed presenters, Mr. Hopkins, Dr. Ramamurthy, and Mr. Giri, for your short and crisp presentations and also keeping to time. Thank you for your insightful and valuable contributions. We will now have a group photo, so requesting all the presenters for session 2 to please be on the screen.
All right. So very quickly, because we are like having short time. So on the count of 3, 2, 1. And once again, 3, 2, 1. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we will be quickly heading towards the. So I would like to thank all the session speakers of session 2. Thank you very much for supporting AIBD's initiative. So now, very quickly, I would like to introduce the moderator of for the session 3, which is all about the disaster preparedness and crisis communication. So I would like to introduce Mr. Umar Khalid. But Mr. Ipang, if you may share the slide. So Mr. Umar Khalid has almost 2 decades of experience as a journalist, hosting special transmissions and shows interviewing important personalities and VIPs from prime ministers to politicians and ambassadors to prominent names in other domains. He has lately been hosting 2 shows on PTV World, the first being Newsroom, Monday to Friday, and the second one being Diplomatic Enclave. I also produced his show a long time back, as well as special transmissions and shows in which he discusses issues that concern the society and world at large, including climate change and environmental pollution. So, Mr. Omar, over to you.
Let me just unmute. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening, depending on wherever you are. For us, it's the early afternoon. It's around 12 past 1. And, climate change, when you talk of climate change, it's something that I've highlighted many a times in my shows, and I continue to do so. Just look at Pakistan's case. Before I move forward to crisis communication and what needs to be done, I just wanted to highlight one small aspect of how important it is for us to be not only prepared for climate change but also do the needful on different levels. In this case, radio. Disaster preparedness is very important. Just look at Pakistan. We haven't had rains for what 3-4 months, and now today it was raining cats and dogs in Islamabad as well as in Lahore since morning. So the fact is that this unnatural pattern, as far as climate is concerned, whether on one hand our country has gone through floods in 2022, and on the other hand we see drought-like condition happening as well. The fact is that disaster preparedness is just a very small aspect of how to manage climate change, specifically in countries that are most affected by that. And when it comes to that, the role of radio is primordial. And of course, disaster preparedness and crisis communication becomes a very important part of how to deal with the climate change and how to deal with it in an effective manner. Now, when natural disasters strike, access to timely, accurate, life-saving information can mean the difference between safety and tragedy. As you very well know, we've heard Radio Pakistan's anchor person also detailing the role of Radio Pakistan in a previous session. Now, radio has repeatedly proven to be the most or one of the most reliable communication channel in disaster situations because of the access that it has reaching affected populations when internet and mobile fails. And of course, we all know how radio has played an important role even in our previous generations time as well. This session is going to focus on how radio can strengthen crisis communication from early warning systems to post disaster recovery. Our panel of experts that are joining or have joined us will be sharing their experience, best practices, and will also be giving their recommendations on how to improve disaster preparedness through this form of radio broadcasting. Let me introduce my guests one by one. I'll request all of those who are listening to us or watching us either on YouTube or otherwise on different platforms that if you have any recommendation, any question to ask from any of our uh, participants, please do so, and then we'll take up these questions at the end of our session. My first guest for this session is Fred Hooper. He's a broadcaster from ABC Australia, and ABC is a channel. Let me just tell Fred on a personal note that ABC is a channel that I've been, hooking on since a very, very long time. And I was recently in the Maldives where I also met many of the ABC correspondents. Fred has been with the ABC for about 12 years in 5 different bureaus across the country. He's been working mainly in radio with live programs and field reporting. Radio is Fred's thing. He loves creating it, also supports other people to perfecting their skills. And this is what has been driving him. I think it's a very good drive while you move yourself further and also move others along with that. Since 2022, Fred has been taking the radio show Pacific Prepared throughout the Pacific and producing programs with assistance from local media in a capacity building role. Now, Fred co-hosts this show, Pacific Prepared, and loves adding Pacific voices to the conversations happening around disaster preparedness in the region. Fred, if you're with us, thank you and welcome to this session. You just saw the little slide about Fred's CV and what he's done. I kind of moved ahead a little bit before Nabil could share the slide. Fred, if you're online with us, let me just see if he's
I
here.
am here indeed. Can you hear me there?
Oh, you're here. I can see you. Hi,
Yep.
Fred.
Hello.
Fred, over to you. I'll leave you to continue with the session and to give your perspective on this very important issue.
Sure. Okay. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Let me try that again. Stand by, please. Let's try this one. There we go. Has that worked for everybody? Yep. Great. I can see it there. Not very good with PowerPoint, so give me a moment. I'm going to start this and see how we go. Rightio. Okay, so I guess I'll first of all are we on the right screen here? Can everybody just see the big logo at the moment? Is that right?
Yes, we can. I mean, I can see it. I'm sure the others can as well.
Okay, great. All right, I'll just kick into it and we'll see how we go.
No,
So
you're
I'm
showing
Fred.
the screen, Fred.
Oh, okay. So other screen.
One that you should look, and the other one maybe the one.
Hang on. So let me just I reckon it's gone to the other way around. Hang on. I'll just sorry. I will just do this again. Let's do that. And is that better?
That's much better.
Great. All right. No worries. G'day, I'm Fred and I'm from ABC International Development in Australia and I'm based in Lutruwita in Tasmania. I work for ABC International Development as a content maker, mainly working on the radio program Pacific Prepared, as you can see here. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the program now and how it works because it's a little bit more than just a radio show. It's a 30-minute program each week. It's broadcast on ABC's Radio Australia and also shared with broadcast partners across the Pacific. All the content that we make or that is made for Pacific Prepared comes from Pacific reporters. So reporters who are based in the Pacific and not ABC journalists. I should also say at this point that Pacific Prepared does not broadcast emergency or immediate emergency warnings. It's not that sort of program. It's designed as a preventative program and covering reaction after natural disasters. Stories can include disaster preparedness, climate change, and traditional knowledge. So that's kind of our themes or a thematic, the themes that we follow for the program. Like I said, we work with reporters on story ideas. If they want to do that, we can work with them on the ideas so that they can bring the story together for radio and for their local community as well. And one of the aims of Pacific Prepared is to also build the capacity of journalists in the Pacific. And part of that work is done remotely, and part of it is also done in country. And we make a radio show each week off the back of this work that we're doing in this capacity building work. So just as a quick overview for you, as you can see, launched in 2021 under the Pacific Media Assistance Scheme, and some of you may be familiar with that, which falls under ABC's International Development. We've got 191 episodes to date, so that's where we're at. We're broadcast on Radio Australia and partners across the Pacific as well. In the lead up to the 2022 volcanic eruption in Tonga, Pacific Prepared was broadcasting short recorded messages. It's sort of advising listeners on what they could be doing during different natural disaster situations, including tsunamis and volcanic eruptions. And we heard anecdotally that people had learned from these short messages on the program, and they put that into practice when the eruption happened as well. And we just hope that some of those messages might have helped in just a small way to keep some people safe during that disaster. So that's kind of just one of the things that Pacific Prepared is aiming to do, just to put out general disaster preparedness information for that exact reason, that exact time. So that's kind of when it sort of came to its crescendo, I suppose. As I mentioned, part of the work that Pacific Prepared does is in country. So we do a lot of travel for the program. It's mostly training on the ground while we're also producing Pacific Prepared on the road as well. So we always have the program to make, but we also have a focus on training and building the capacity of local media. And we've produced Pacific Prepared from Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, Tuvalu, and most recently last week from Micronesia. It's a great on-the-job tool to help us to train journalists and understand what we do as well. I just wanted to play this short video. I think it's only about 2 minutes. It's just to give you an overview of the program and how we work. So fingers crossed this works. Go back a bit. Right, yeah, there we go. Sorry.
It's the video is kind of jittery to me, and there's no audio, or is there?
Oh, okay, right. I was just looking to see if the audio was playing. Okay. Sorry, you would. Yeah, I can't see where to play the audio. I might.
You have to
maybe you can skip
go to the
the video.
options, you should go to the options and then put a computer sound, play computer sound.
Sorry, look, maybe we should just skip over the video. Is that?
No
Yeah, sure.
options.
I think, Fred, we can skip the video because we are also running out of time.
Of course. Yep, no problem. That's totally fine. I can put that into the chat anyway, so you can watch it independently. I will carry on. So our co-host is based in Fiji. It's Josana Nunga, and I've traveled throughout the Pacific delivering training while producing Pacific Prepared with Joe. We've been to a lot of different places, including a lot of places across Fiji, and some of these images are from the Asawa Islands in Fiji. We traveled up there in 2022 to to visit some remote communities, and Joe was still working with FBC, Fijian Broadcasting Corporation at this time. So that was kind of part of our capacity building at that stage. And I would also like to say at this point that from my experience, we haven't really needed to encourage the reporting in the climate change space. That desire has already sort of been there. But I think how we fit into this picture is to assist the local media to be able to tell their stories. And our speciality is really helping the media to tell these stories that are already important to them. And that's what the ABC International Development role is in this. And ABC International Development also co-designs training programs where possible, which is also what we did in Micronesia just last week. This is Joe and myself recording the links for the program in the Nauru airport on the fly last week. And if I keep going, this is also from Nauru. Joe's just doing some training in Micronesia. During the training in Micronesia, we were also able to sort of bring journalists from outer islands to the main island of Pohnpei. And the face-to-face training allows us to do, I reckon, so much more. We can actually get a better understanding of what people need and adjust our training on the spot if we need to as well. We communicated with the broadcasters. This is still in Micronesia from last week. So we communicated with the broadcasters during training to see what they needed from ABC International Development, and we delivered news for social media, training in news for social media, and radio skills workshop. We did simple interviewing techniques and ways to create engaging radio that listeners want to hear, and all that was sort of themed around climate change and natural disasters as well. Recording the program from, this is us recording the program from a market, a local market in Pohnpei, Micronesia last week, where we were actually working with students from the College of Micronesia on interviewing techniques and skills. And while we were there, we recorded the program as well. So we were wandering around the market with the students, so you can see who are surrounding us there, teaching interviewing skills on the job and just asking them to do interviews in like a real setting, I suppose. So we did a little bit of theory in the classroom, then we went out into the field and started doing some practical work. We have found that hands-on learning is very effective, and throwing people right in the deep end and putting a microphone in their hand and asking them to record something is quite a valuable tool and a good way for us to teach, and a really good way for local journalists to learn as well. So you can see there's some government media journalists here from Pohnpei, Micronesia, out in the field in the afternoon. We gave them a recorder, said, there you go, let's go and record some stories, and we're in the field recording stories there. This is just some more images of Josiah on the left there working with another journalist from Palau on the right in Vanuatu recording a story. They're doing more training, and then you can see us as well recording the show on a jetty in Vanuatu as well as part of another training course that we did. Some more images here. Tuvalu recently, Josiah and myself, and then the team from the Tuvalu Broadcasting Corporation as well. On the right there, you can see with our other trainers as well. We spent a week, or well, actually 4 days in Tuvalu with the team there. Again, trying to figure out what they needed and what we could deliver for the team in Tuvalu. So going there, speaking to the team, seeing what their needs are, and then I guess assessing our training and changing it for what the needs were in Tuvalu as well. As part of Pacific Prepare, we also have a Mojo training. So it's mobile journalism training, and we've rolled that out in several countries across the Pacific. The mobile journalism kits, as you can see on the photo on the right there in the middle, it's being held. You'll get a better look at it in a second, but the kits are designed to be simple and lightweight, so they encourage more journalists to report from remote areas of the Pacific where the impacts of climate change and natural disasters are often felt much more. And again, we have found a component of theory in this training, and explaining the kits and how they work is good, but also the best form of learning comes from picking up the kit and just having a go. So we go out in the field and we record stories with the journalists. So these photos, one of them on the left was from Fiji, the photo on the right is from Tonga. Both of these actually, the photo on the right is Tonga and Fiji on the left again. So after we do the training with the journalists, we often go out on the story with them that they want to shoot for their news that day. And we're just there to sort of help them to produce the story while reinforcing the learning from the Mojo kits or whatever we're training in the morning. And again, the training is catered to each broadcaster so that it will work to suit their needs. So we don't have a sort of set system that we go into each country with. We always co-design with our broadcasters previously to rolling out that training. And just quickly, I will mention, this will be and finally to wrap up for me, to mention another stream of Pacific Prepared, which has been able to support the production of a local language version of the program. This is our co-host Josiah on the right, recording an Itoke language version of Pacific Prepared. Joe's based in Suva, and he's been working with the Fijian Broadcasting Corporation to produce the Itoke language version of the program. So at the moment, presently, the program is, I think, also half an hour, and it's on Fiji Radio 1. And it is a summary of what is on the English version of Pacific Prepared. And then Josiah and Maliki, who you can see pictured here from FBC, are also recording stories in language for the language version of PAC Prepared as well, that runs on Fijian Broadcasting Corporation. So, and we're hoping that that's a model that we might be able to apply in other locations, but we haven't really explored that properly yet. But that's a dream, I suppose. And that pretty much concludes it for me. So thank you very much. And yeah, looking forward to any questions if you've got any off the back of that.
And that's excellent. I mean, you're looking at other options. I think you should explore Asia as another option, because Asia is one of the regions which has been severely affected by climate change as well. And nothing better than your PAC Prepared show involving local journalists, as you have been doing in your area. And it was so endearing to see the different languages that you are including and how you are moving forward with that, so as to involve more and more local community and make more and more people understand. I think that is what the basic aim of radio has been and should be, and that is what you are carrying forward as well. So kudos to you, Fred. That was a very interesting discussion as far as your program is concerned, and I hope that many others, take the lead from here and start local programming, that just like you have started. Or as I said, you can maybe join hands with others in different regions of the world, because it's a very good. That is an excellent initiative. We'll go to our second now, I think, speaker, and then at the end, we'll take questions from the chat box, if that's fine. Giacomo Mazzone, he is the General Coordinator of the World Radio Day Committee in Italy. I wish I knew Italian. I could at least say hello to you, but nevertheless, English is the common language here. Mr. Giacomo has over 30 years of experience in the information, sport, and international relations sectors. He has been trained as a journalist with a great deal of experience as far as international companies are concerned and also international organizations. He's worked for all kinds of traditional media, whether it be press, whether it be radio, journal, interest television, but also new media. I think this is very important as well. All news channels, internet portals, expert. He is an expert in European and international negotiations. I wish I can have you as guest in my show. He is currently the General Coordinator of the World Radio Day Committee. Mr. Giacomo Mazzone, over to you. Mr. Mazzone, we cannot hear you. Can you unmute? Can you please unmute, because we can't hear you? Yes.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm in the middle of the street because I'm late for another World Radio Day event that will take place in Milan in a few minutes. So unfortunately, I have to make it from the street. But this is the job of the reporter, radio reporter, are on the street. Thank you for inviting me to this session. I have some slides that I ask you to, if you can originate for me. My presentation is about radio in times of emergency and crisis, as the session says, not only related to the climate change, but more in general. Next slide, please. As you are surely aware, the IPCC report says that there will be more and more climate crises. They will increase in number, frequency, and magnitude all around the world. And early warning system has been conceived exactly to reduce the impact on population about this climate change related catastrophes and also other kind of catastrophes. Next slide, please. But in the current early warning system that exists around the world, there is a loophole how to reach the population, because the early warning systems have been conceived mainly in how to collect information through more accurate weather forecasts, how to get more predictable itinerary for cyclones, etc., etc. But the main weak point remains how to reach the population. Not the main population, not the urban population that usually are the easiest to reach, but the people in remote areas, the rural areas, the disabled, etc., etc. The 100% of the population, because when it comes to catastrophes, you need to reach all the population. No one can be left behind. Next slide, please. Then, as many of the speakers before me have already said, better than me, radio is the most appropriate answer. From the old transmitters, receivers that you remember from the transistor age, till the DAB receivers of new generation, that the radio is according to the statistics, the only media that could reach 98% of the population. But, and next slide please, is not only a question of the media in itself, but is also the resistance and resilience of this specific media. Can you go to the next slide? For instance, in 2017, in Europe, we have this wildfires in Portugal. Portugal is a country that is well connected, where internet penetration is very high. But what happened is that when there were wildfires, there were more than 60 people that died. Why? Because they got the wrong information, because they were not getting the right information through the right media. They were looking at the internet and they were getting wrong information because people doesn't know exactly the wind direction, and so they were trying to recover themselves in places that were not safe. They looked safe, but a few minutes after looked totally unsafe, and they died because of that. You can see the pictures showing that. So most of the people died because of wrong information given mainly by social media. Can we go to the next? As already signaled by the other person from my colleagues from Australia, in the case of Tonga, what he forgot to mention is that in Tonga happened something very specific. Not only there was the volcano crisis, but also there was the problem that the radio signal remained the only way to reach the population, because the submarine cable connecting Tonga to the rest of the world was cut down by a boat, and so the only way to reach population was radio, and most of the people were saved just because of radio. Next slide, please. The same happened in Syria and Turkey for something else. You remember the earthquake 2 years ago. It was one of the most deadly in the region. During the earthquake, what happened was that the earthquake was so big that the power supply completely collapsed in all the region, and the transmitters from television and the transmitters for telecom operators were totally altered. The only transmitters that were resilient and had fuel enough to continue to broadcast were the radio transmitters. So most of the population got, for the first 2 days after the earthquake, their information only through the radio. Next slide. So, just to say that this last mile, what we call the last mile, how to reach the population, is the most difficult ring in the chain of communication, and radio can play a vital role, and we need to keep it continuing to do so. I remember that in 2 years' time, there will be the next World Radio Conference of the ITU, in which the frequencies need to be assigned, and we will have a strong competition from other people watching for our frequencies. Mainly the low orbit satellite has been mentioned by other speakers before me. They are looking for bandwidth, and one of the bandwidth that they are looking at is also the radio bandwidth. So we need to keep an eye and to struggle to survive for our radio signals that risk to be soon seized by somebody else for commercial and economic purposes. Thank you, and I'm sorry that unfortunately I have to leave this conversation because I have to go to the next session here in Milan. Best from here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Giacomo. And that was Giacomo Mazzone. He, of course, is from Italy, and he was giving us more information as to how radio can pave to be very important in times of crisis. He narrated different incidents, whether it be from 2022, 2023. He talked about the Tonga Islands tragedy in 2022, the Syria and Turkey earthquake in 2023. He talked about the role of radio in emergencies, and I think it's very important in a crisis situation and emergencies. That is the easiest way to get access as far as the people who are estranged in that community is concerned, and that is, I think, a very effective tool that could be worked upon for future events that could happen in any part of the world as well. We'll come to our last participant in this session. Yes.
Since Mr. Giacomo is on the street, maybe we can have a very quick group photo and then we can move to Dr. Amal's presentation. Can we do that?
Okay, we can do that. So
Okay.
I'll ask all my three presenters for this session, Giacomo as well as Fred, and of course Dr. Amal, to come online. That way we can take a group picture, and I'll leave it to you, Nabil, to take the picture. I don't know how you do that, but anyways.
All right. So very quickly on the count of 3, 2, 1. And I think it's perfect. Back to you, Umar.
Okay, thank you very much, Giacomo, to have come back online. I know you're a very busy man, and today is an important day. So all the very best. Coming to my third, presenter as far as this session is concerned, Dr. Amal Punchihiva is a broadcasting consultant from New Zealand. He's a highly experienced engineer and researcher as far as broadcasting is concerned, academia is concerned, as well as the industry is concerned. He's got over 35 years of experience. Now I'm being dwarfed by all these brilliant people who have 30 years plus experience, and I'm saying I'm just a dwarf, and I need to understand so much more from people like you. He inspires innovation in media technology and advocates for technical guidelines and standards. Dr. Amal is a chartered professional engineer. He's a fellow of IET from the United Kingdom and senior member of the IEEE in the United States. He is a distinguished lecturer of the IEEE Broadcast Technology Society as well. I don't know how you juggle all these different things together, but hats off to you. Over to you, Dr. Amal.
Thank you, Mr. Omar. Nabil kindly enabled me to share the screen. Thank you. So while Nabil,
you are already enabled, Dr. Amal.
Yeah,
I made you the co-host. Oh, just a moment.
No, not yet.
Yes, now you can.
Okay, can you see the screen now?
Loading.
All right, I think you can see the screen now, and you can hear me well.
Yeah,
yes. All right.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, so I know we are pressed for time, and
I think Dr. Amal got disconnected. But meanwhile, he joins. Maybe Umar, you may ask some questions to. Ah, okay, he is back.
He's busy. He's back. All right. All right. Over to you, Dr. Aman. Dr. Amal, you need to unmute.
Yeah, that's right. I think the connection got lost, isn't it?
Must have.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I'll connect once again. Okay. Yeah. You see the screen now?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So press for time, but the previous speakers talked a lot about some of the topics that I want to cover. So in my short time, what I try to do is I'll try to give a kind of a more conceptual reinforcement.
Nabil, is Dr. Amal back offline?
I think so that he is again offline.
Oh.
But maybe again, to fill the gap,
Okay, I'll do that.
You may ask some questions.
Fred, are you with us? Fred, are you still with us?
I am indeed, yes.
All right, Fred, I'll ask you this question. One of the questions that some people ask me as well during my previous shows that I've had on climate change. And when we talk of different forms of communication, of course, here we are concentrating on radio. In your point of view, what are the key elements as far as an effective radio-based early warning system for climate-based disasters or climate-related disasters is concerned? Do you feel it is specific to certain countries, or this is a general concept as far as how to reach people in need and how to properly use this tool?
Sorry, was it about early warning systems? Is that what you're asking?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think it's well, from what I've seen and experienced, it's definitely different in each country, depending on what the disaster is that we're talking about as well. I mean, obviously some countries experience a lot more earthquakes, and then as a result of those, possible tsunamis as well. And then there's obviously, I guess, slightly slower moving natural disasters like cyclones or typhoons, hurricanes, whatever you want to refer to them as. So I guess they've got a slightly different warning system attached to them as well. So it really depends on the country that we're talking about. And I mean, I think for example, in Tonga, there is a siren that is sounded across Nuku'alofa. And I'm not sure how the outer islands also experience that siren, but in Nuku'alofa, the capital of Tonga, there is a siren that the whole city can hear straight away. And I think it's broadcast from, it might even be on the top of the Tonga Broadcasting Commission, I've got a feeling. So they're all interconnected. The radio and the early warning system is interconnected. So that happens in Tonga. I think the same thing happens in Samoa, and there's also tsunami drills that happen in Tonga and Samoa as well, in schools, and just generally across the community. These drills happen regularly to make sure people know what to do in certain situations. So,
Fred, I'd also like to understand something. You with your show Pack Prepared have gone to different areas, and you told us during your presentation on how you have involved the local people, the local journalists, as well as far as this reporting is concerned. When it comes to broadcasting accurate, responsible reporting during any crisis situation, whether it be an earthquake, flood, or any other such climate-related or climate-induced situation, how can we ensure that misinformation or panic doesn't dissipate amongst the people in the area?
Yeah, it's a tricky question. I think also Pacific Prepared is not an emergency broadcast program.
I know. But you do involve a lot of local broadcasters. So I mean, you must have talked to them about different perspectives on how they deal with it when something happens in their area.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we do. And it's hard for them because a lot of misinformation is around, particularly on social media. I think it's quite prevalent. So it is, and it's difficult for the audience to tell what's real. It's not just that it's all on there. It's actually difficult for the audience to tell what is real and accurate and what is misinformation or not accurate or something that's not been tested or not been proven. So it's really difficult, I think, and I think the broadcasters obviously they're going to rely on radio because they know that they have that direct connection with their audience rather than going through social media where everybody else is as well. Sorry, I think we should go back to our speaker,
Amal.
right?
Yes,
Yeah.
Dr. Amal is here. Amal, Dr. Amal, it's over to you. Back to you.
Yeah,
with your
thank you.
presentation.
I don't know what was happening earlier. I still cannot share, Nabil. Can you kindly enable me to share? I'm sorry.
Just a moment. I think that you rejoined, so that's right.
Yeah.
Just a moment, and now you're the co-host.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Just wait. Okay. Yeah. Hopefully.
Nabil, I think there's some kind of an issue when he starts to share his slides. The screen becomes black, and then in the full screen, oh, there it is. There it is.
Yeah.
We can see it.
Now
We
it's
can
all.
see
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Yes.
So I'm sorry for that interruption. So my title for my presentation is the future broadcast radio for increased resilience. So the two important things in my short presentation I want to emphasize are the adjective I have put there, the broadcast radio, because when we talk about radio, what comes to our mind is immediately the box where we listen to the radio. But today, the radio is not limited to the box because the broadcasters are first going onto the radio and then also going on to the other platforms to deliver. And but we are not forgetting that the radio in the box is the most powerful, and we are improving the resilience with that as well. So the UNESCO team this time kept very open because they said radio and climate change. So we have selected how we going to handle the climate crisis and then communicate. So in the last two sessions, speakers talked a lot about that, and Fred also talked a lot, bringing some examples from Pacific as well, our neighbor, and then the AIBD team is the radio in the climate crisis. So this I gathered today because every day the things are changing in website. So this I get from our New Zealand National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. And so they say, how do you prepare for an emergency and to stay informed? So as the broadcaster, I will come to that soon. One important thing we do is about the informing the public, and then how to get the information so that this agency itself telling, you could see that radio is the top priority, and also then you can look to television for more information, and then the civil defense and social media. And the reason for that I don't have to mention because many speakers talked about the misinformation, disinformation, but the radio being the more trusted information. And also the radio is today is more resilient because this can work with when there is a power is not available. And most of the time, most of the crises that emerging out of the climate change are the fire, the floods, rain, landslides will damage most of the infrastructures for even the fiber cables, and then the fiber is required for the mobile station as well. They are lost. But this radio stations, as many speakers mentioned, are high power, high tower, and could reach longer distance, and also supported through many other, could reach these devices which can work on a crank, by cranking, like in cycles we used to have the dynamos. So there's a kind of a dynamo which generates electricity or can generate electricity from the solar panel. So the radio is, by definition, we tend to have what comes as a box. And then I'm not going to talk about any of the production because it was discussed quite a lot. And the production we should focus in this area should be the programs to educate people how to prepare for the crisis, how to prepare, and when they hear from the radio or other communication, how they should act. And to do that, we have the over-the-air broadcasting, over the broadband, and also combined. But many speakers mentioned that the internet is not available everywhere. It's poor, so in all those circumstances, over-the-air broadcasting, which comes through the radio wave, is the most robust, most reliable communication. So that's why we use that one. And also, we should not depend on just simple programs. So again, many speakers mentioned about like how we can enrich these programs to attract people, engage them, and also you can go one step further, because you can broadcast a small program and then you can record it and then you can make available on the web, and then it is what we call the podcast. So podcasts are added, and then also the on demand. And so in those contexts, the public service broadcasters radio stations are making quite a lot of impact during these times. So it was evident from many speakers from various countries. So we have discussed many times, even today it was mentioned during the COVID-19, and I would like to take an example coming from New Zealand. So the broadcasting, when we talk about it, is informing, entertaining, educating, and also want to add one more thing today. Broadcast can be coupled with very easily for alerting, for emergency warning. So the UN has by 2027 to have the early warning for all. So the radio, being a sound communication method, we carry these things through some waves to any form of devices, and then that requires spectrum. It was mentioned a little while ago, and also it was mentioned how the production is done, and I mentioned the distribution part. So the distribution is most strongest in the radio for when it is done over the air rather than it is over the broadband. Over the broadband can be treated as a supplementary method. So we are not discarding that. So we are using social media as well, but the most trusted form is when it is broadcast over the air, which is received through the radio. And this was shown many times in many instances. And I'll skip some of these, but I want to mention one example very quickly, taking just 1.5 minutes. So in 2022, there was a flood happen in New Zealand, and it was called the 100-year event. It was flooded the commercial capital, Auckland, and it happened for a consecutive time, second time within a very short period of time. So it was sort of unexpected. Sometimes the rain was received in 24 hours, was over a month worth of rain, which cannot handle by the drain and the systems. So then the emergency agencies warn people to listen to the radio, and if they don't have power, because sometimes the power stations were flooded, no energy, so they were asked them to use their radio in the car to listen to the warnings, and then to evacuate at appropriate time. So I don't want to drag on, but I want to conclude by saying that. So like many speakers mentioned, the value of the broadcast radio, which is over the air, is undeniably, it's very valuable, and it can be supplemented through other methods, but the over the air is the most reliable and robust one. And this can be this can be available to the other differently able people through other accessible platforms as well. And then so in preparation, we can use the education parts, like it was mentioned, to prepare people for how to act in those times. So I would like to conclude my talk, short talk, by saying that radio will remain as a trusted and accessible source of information for the disaster time while preparing it, and also especially during the crisis time, what action to be taken. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Amal, you highlighted many important things, but one of the things that you did highlight was also highlighted by Giacomo in his, presentation about the early warning systems. And I think this we can't emphasize enough as far as early warning systems are concerned, because that is how you get access to the local community and you inform them in due time as to what to do and how to move forward in the emergency that is about to happen in their area, whether it be as a result of an earthquake or a result of floods. Pakistan, our country has seen it all, earthquakes and floods. So we know exactly how important early warning systems become. The fact also that you talk about the differently abled people is something that really needs to be highlighted as much as possible, because it's just not about those who can hear or listen or understand better. It's also for those who cannot, and how to reach them properly and effectively through a different means. And I think Fred's show could also highlight this in your future shorts or messages on how to access the differently abled people as well. As far as the protocols that you used, Dr. Amal, there was one message in the chat section in which it was being said that the common alerting protocol is also a common global ITU standard that is being used. So I think this is one standard that could be utilized as well as other standards that could be applicable to people across the world in an easy manner. But you also, I think, the basic purpose is to alert the people in time, to tell them what to do, how to do, and how to prevent them and their loved ones from any disaster that could be secondary to such climate induced events. Thank you very much, Dr. Amal Pujiva. I'd like to ask one question from you, because I've asked Fred one or two, and Nabil, I hope I do have time, or do I do not have time to ask one or two more questions?
You may ask at least one question to Dr. Amal.
Okay, because Dr. Amal hasn't asked the, okay. Dr. Amal, and I think Fred could also have answered this. How can the local radio stations, or an improved version of local radio stations through different technologies, you talked about OT and others, coordinate with the government agencies and humanitarian organizations? You talked about United Nations and how it is effectively doing it, but there are other local human rights organizations as well, and humanitarian organizations as well. How can you evolve a strategy that could involve all of them as far as dealing with disaster situations is concerned?
Yeah, if I could first answer that, Fred. But before I answer that question, let me tell very quickly about the CAP, Common Alerting Protocol. Actually, we talked about this in the previous our AIBD events. Once you get the message, usually this message come from a trusted source and a government agency, like which I mentioned, NEMA, National Emergency Management Agency. So they are the authority. Actually, they are more powerful, because they voice based on the science and the expertise what to be done, and that could flow through everywhere. So your question to the answer also lies there, because when some disaster happens, actually in countries like Australia, New Zealand, if a fire happens in Australia, if something happens, some other earthquake or some floods happen in New Zealand, so the NEMA take over, and then they are that's the agency which control the communication, and then so that way it minimizes the misinformation and disinformation, and then the coordination happens automatically. So they prioritize, and they get they hear everybody, but the people cannot do beyond their authority. So the authority is not like a government taking high power, but it's a government agency, but the agency has been given the authority through a legislation. So the situation is managed properly. So they are through the legislation, so the appropriate personnel will take care of everything, but they involve all the required agencies, like meteorological agency, if it is geonet science, or all the related agencies required for that operation will be involved. And also, if required, the services will be called from the police and armed forces and so on to go and help reach people.
All right.
So in that way, the both governmental and non-governmental, all the agencies will have a common opportunity, and they cannot complain that no, we were not given the opportunity, but they need to wait until the right signal comes and to do things. So then also the official communications, and also I would connect that with your earlier question. So the accessibility side, every time when there's a communication, if there's a media release, if they are talking to the radio and the television, there will be always sign language who will translate that for the hearing impaired, so they see they understand things. Yeah.
Okay, Fred, you wanted to add something to that?
Yeah, I did want to add something to that as well. Just in terms of, I guess, accessibility too. So I know that in Australia, from an Australian point of view, when we have warnings on the radio, sometimes the information does get lost, or it's really not understood from people because it is said in such a, weather services have their own language that they use. And I know that in Samoa, for example, the weather service there has been starting to change their language around their emergency messages or the messages in the lead up to a disaster. So, for example, instead of saying that there might be 70-kilometer winds, they might say this might tear your roof off, or this might blow something over in your yard. Instead of saying
so that
there
they can
might
better
be
understand the concept, basically, instead of
exactly,
giving them
yeah.
in terms and facts and figures.
And I think that links back to accessibility, right? If everyone can actually understand the messages, that's the whole point of it. So, yeah.
That's interesting. But final question to the both of you, and I'd like short answers because I think Nabil is patiently waiting for us to finish this session, and I see the smile on his face. Public engagement and preparedness is extremely important. I think through the different measures that all of you are doing and all of you have been doing, even our previous sessions have highlighted different aspects of it. How can we improve this globally and use a global language that surpasses any regional or local language, a method or methodology through which everyone can understand the message that is being given? Like you said, Fred, that the different methodologies that you use, instead of saying 70 kilometers, you say this could happen. But how can we say that in a manner that could be understood globally? What if we had to send a message across to areas which had different languages? I'll begin with you, Dr. Aman.
Yeah, I think what I think what you meant was more than the language. How do you articulate that message so that people understand? So
beyond,
I would
beyond language.
Yeah. So I again remind, like Fred mentioned, the one of the speakers earlier mentioned, we recently actually remembered 20 years of Great Tsunami, both many countries, including Sri Lanka, Indonesia, Thailand, we suffered. So Japan, because we work with them as well quite a lot. So they came up with like even for the water level. If you say the tsunami will be this much of a level, people will not understand the damage it could do. So they could say, okay, it could rise to a level where you will be washed off, or the next level the vehicle will be washed off, like that. And similarly, because I have also been to a number of Pacific countries and work with them on the disaster things, and in New Zealand I'm also doing research. So this is a very challenging thing for all over the world. This comes under social sciences. So the technology can detect and could say, this is the water level that will rise up. But how can we effectively communicate this to the people so that they take this message to save life and the property? So it's a very challenging thing, but it is an emerging research in the social science area.
Fred, can we evolve a local? Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's all right.
Yeah, sorry, it is not, I did not give a solution, but its challenge is, we are still emerging, and now it is we actually under the early warning for all this UN 2027 targets, we are doing a lot of things. Among some of the work we do is all about that as well. It's not just about the technology. That's why I did not talk about I could have talked about technology because it was mentioned about the DAB plus. DAB plus could transmit geographically specific alerts so that other people are not get disturbed, only the people that will affect, right?
That
But
is true.
what's important, what is important is
go ahead, Dr. Amal, finish your conversation.
yeah. So what is important is they give the message to, because the idea of giving the alert is to save the life and to save some property if possible. So that way we should be able to, if we say, oh, there will be floods and there will be storm, people will not have any feeling what the storm will do, and so we should be able to tell that there will be storms. We can tell the speed, but also we could, like Fred mentioned, could take your roof off, so they know what action to be taken, where to go, where not to go, and so on.
All right, Fred, what my question basically was, and I mean, Dr. Amal has explained some of the methodologies, but can we evolve some kind of a global strategy so that we can move beyond languages? We have the different languages, we have the local, the regional languages, then we have the differently able people who do not understand any language, and sign language could help, or any other form of communication. Could we in the future evolve something like that in order to prepare people for future disasters or avert them from getting affected by such disasters?
Can I answer the question?
Nabil, can we take in?
Sure, why not?
Yeah,
Mr.
jump
Sridhar,
in.
over to you. Yes, let's if you could add to that.
There are only 2 points I want to say. India is a country which has got so many languages, and we have seen so many. See, language is not a thing. Creativity of the person, creativity. Number 2 is artificial intelligence is going to change the entire quantum computing. Artificial intelligence will encompass all languages, all dialects, and all sides of communication. Therefore, as Anmol was saying, he was not talking about technology. Technology combined with creativity will, maybe another 5 years or so, the world will have lesser damage from climate change.
I hope so. I really hope so, because all of our countries have witnessed some kind of damage. Fred, over to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure about, if there'll be some sort of universal solution to this at all. I mean, it does seem like it's going to be quite localized a lot of the time, like we've already spoken about. And I guess just taking it back a little bit too, and I'm telling this to a lot of radio experts, so I'm sorry, but when we're telling stories as well about climate change, we really try to relate what we're seeing to somebody who has never seen that before as well. Some, Pacific countries are very vastly different. Some are in drought, some are in flood, and that's just across the Pacific. So they're vastly different as well. So we try and always relate what we're seeing. So what, like just like the weather services are doing as well, to try to relate their messages. So we're trying to relate the size of something that we can see to something that everybody can see. So something might be the size of a car, or the size of, say, a telephone box or something like that, or a mobile phone.
Basically relativize things in terms of objects or size, so that people have a much better
Yeah.
understanding of things.
That's right. So we're forever trying to do that when we're telling stories as well, so that people can understand exactly what we're talking about. And I think that's the same with warning messages too. That's what weather bureaus are sort of facing, that challenge as well.
Okay, that was interesting. Thank you very much to all 3 of our participants. What one has left, of course, he was going to an important meeting, and Nabil, as usual, is waiting very patiently that I finish this session up, because it's time for us to wrap up this all. disaster preparedness, crisis communication was what we discussed during this couple of minutes. I think it was interesting from different aspects because we understood methodologies, we understood how to move locally, we understood the technologies that are being used and could be used in the future as well. And we also, related to differently able people and how we can also get direct with them in order to involve them as well as far as preparedness for disaster situations is concerned. This is a long and evolving, discussion. This is something that can go on for a long time. But I think this small session has also made us more aware of how we, as individuals, as societies, can also move forward in the right direction. Thank you very much to all three of my participants: Fred Hooper, broadcaster from ABC Australia, Dr. Amal Punchehiba, to have joined us as well, and of course Giacomo Mazzoni, who's no longer in this session, but he's with us in spirit, and we hope that we will continue to arouse more, knowledge and information and curiosity as far as climate change is concerned. That is how we can, as societies, prevent our nations and cities from future disasters. Thank you and take care. Over to you, Nabil.
Thank you very much. And like I'm also getting calls from my home as well that where are you? So obviously we have taken a lot of time for everyone, but definitely it was all information packed. And thank you very much for all the insights. And there are like so many things to share. And as I was very much ambitious at the start, that I would really like to have some case studies from the participants as well. But I guess that we don't have enough time. But still, nevertheless, we would definitely like to ask if anyone wants to share something from the participants uh, regarding their case studies, regarding their challenges. We would be definitely like to have them. Another thing is that Dr. Sridhar wants to announce something, especially related to the upcoming awards, which will be announced by the Government of India. So, Dr. Sridhar, over to you, sir.
Okay. Can you show me the slide, please?
Yes, please. Just a moment.
So Government of India this time is organizing from 2nd May to 5th May at Mumbai, the Bollywood capital of India, a very big international conference called Waves, in which we have an International Community Radio Content Challenge Awards. They are given 5 awards to you: Public Health and Society. It's open to any community radio station in the world. They can do, provided that is a diplomatic relations between India and the other country. Education and literacy, women and child development, agriculture and rural development, cultural preservation, focusing any other SDGs of the UN. And it can be an innovative program and most effective program. And there are prizes, and the Indian government will agree to provide the local transport, local accommodation for the people to come with a cash prize of 50,000 rupees, which comes down around $600 US. I hope you can contact Nabil for further details, and then Nabil will be passing on to the Community Radio Association, which is the co-sponsor. I think we have Chandrasekhar here from Community Radio Association, and I don't know whether the ministry's Dr. Sharma has joined here. So Chandrasekhar, say hello to you. Hello. And
Hi,
then
sir. Hi, everyone. And hello.
That's it.
Can I share more points on this, sir?
Sorry, 30 seconds because Nabil wants to go home.
Yeah, I'll just take only 20 seconds, sir.
No, my crew is also waiting with me.
Yeah, fine. So thank you very much for giving us an opportunity. This program is being conducted first time by Government of India. The Waves is an international challenge where the entire entertainment industry is going to participate and focus their challenges. This is the first time that community radios have been given recognition to place their challenges on stage along with the entertainment industry. My request and humble submission to every member who is directly or indirectly connected with the community radio is to please apply for the award, because the first time prize money is secondary. At least the recognition what we are as a united together in different parts of the country can be shown our powers. Thank you very much. I think I'll complete in 18 seconds. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Chandrasekhar, and of course, Dr. Sridhar. So, if you want to visit Mumbai and especially attend the waves, it's a shortcut that you should be like participating in this award. So, we'll be sending you some of the information. If any one of you is interested in participating in the awards, do let us know at training@aibd.org.my. Few more announcements that next Thursday we will be also having another workshop which will be on the sustainability goals and how the broadcasters envision that only 5 years left to 2030 and how much things they need to do. So do kindly register for that thing as well. It won't be that long, but still it will be definitely information packed as well. So another thing is that AIBD International Media Awards 2025 is also back. And this year, of course, everyone knows that this year the theme for Radio Day was radio and climate. So aligning with the UNESCO goals, we will be also having the awards with the theme of radio and climate. We will be definitely sending you the theme and the category list and the details as well. And the award ceremony will be held in the historic city of Siem Reap in Cambodia in July. So rest of the details, our secretariat will be sending you very soon. But in case if you are like eager to have the information, just write us at training@aibd.org.my. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the speakers. And we can have a very quick group photo with everyone. And so it would be a memory. So if I can invite all of you guys, folks, to turn on your camera if convenient, so we can have group photo. All right. So we have, oh wow, AIBD colleagues are still at office. Okay, it's quite late, but anyways, thank you very much, guys. Okay, and we have our friends from Myanmar as well. Miss Jasmine is also there. Miss Jasmine, how are you? Thank you very much.
Where are you, Nabil?
I'm in Malaysia.
Not in AIBD office?
No, I'm at AIBD office.
Okay, good.
Right. Okay. All right. So anyone else wants to join us in the Mr. Sam Navi? Maybe you can turn off your virtual background because it's hiding your face. Or maybe you can be a bit nearer to your camera.
Nabil, you can't make big complaints because my time is 10:21 p.m. in the night.
Oh,
now.
yes, exactly. And I think PG is
I'm
also
not complaining.
Like, exactly. PG, Mr. Salesh Kumar is also like having a very, like, it's quite late, I think, in PG as well.
11 o'clock in the night. No?
Wow. Okay. So thank you very much. This is the passion we really need as a broadcaster, you know. Okay. So on the count of 3, 2, 1. And right. One more. On the count of 3, 2, 1. All right. Perfect. So thank you very much. And if anyone wants to like to comment anything, just feel free to unmute yourself and tell us something. Otherwise, there won't be any post-credit scenes like any Marvel movies. So we have Dr. Tapendra Kumar from India. He's like climate change, climate advocate as well, and has done quite a lot. So Dr. Tapendra, if you want to share a few cents, few gems with us.
Nabil, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Actually, I had brought a case study with me of a tremendous work which was done by a radio station in India, an all India radio station. But I don't think I'll be able to do justice to the tremendous work that they had done in such a short time. I would request you to, put me into the other session which you are talking about, which is coming next Thursday. So there maybe I will be able to explain that. But the idea is that actually, in this case of climate change, countering the climate change, unless we can rope in every section of the society. In fact, the one segment of the society which I think should get special focus is that segment of society who are not literate. They cannot read. They have to bank on their ears only. And that is where radio comes to them as a savior. And just like Amal was also mentioning, people who are suffering from some disabilities. So in this case, I feel that we have got to rope in. And together with that, there was a question like, how can we bring in the people who are connected with this whole phenomenon, the stakeholders? So the All India radio station or any public service broadcaster for that matter has got to lie also with the NGOs who are working in that field, who have a common mission, rope them in. And together with a concerted effort, I can tell you the example of a national park which has a stretch of rainforest in the northeastern state of Assam. That national park, which is a national park today, was threatened by the mushrooming of plywood industries in its fringes. But because of the effort of a radio station and the awareness that it could inculcate in the people living there, leave aside throwing away the plywood industry from that vicinity, that particular stretch of rainforest, first it was declared as a wildlife sanctuary, and today it is a national park. So the threat to its vegetation is totally eliminated. So all the stakeholders who have a common mission in countering climate change has to be roped in, and radio or the public service broadcaster can play a great role in liaisoning them. Thank you, Nabil.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zapender. And we have with us Mr. Masood as well from Pakistan. Mr. Masood, you have been doing a lot of programs on climate change. Any gems for us?
Thank you, everyone. Are you listening? I'm audible.
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you for everyone who participated in all these sessions. Very informative sessions. As far as our working concern, as you mentioned that we have also produced a show on radio and climate change on Radio Day. So we have also invited, like you, various guest speakers around the globe and from the Pakistan. So I think just would like to say Happy World Radio Day to all of you. Thank you.
Okay, where is this? I'm not sure that what happened, but anyways, so thank you very much, Mr. Masood. And anyone else would like to have a very quick comment, very good quick feedback before we wind up? Anyone? So, Mr. Siromani from Nepal, Akurab, sir, thank you very much for all the coordination. And then we have, of course, our friends from MRTV and from Cambodia as well. So, all right. Okay, so if there is nothing, just let us know your feedback, your suggestions at training@aibd.org.my. And if you have any idea or any request regarding any international training for your respective organization, do let us know, and we will try to devise a workshop for you, an intensive workshop.
If permitted, I should just like to. Hello, I'm Rajiv Kumar Shukla. I retired as ADG from All India Radio, and disaster management communication was one of the areas of my specialization. So my point is that All India Radio, with the diversity that we have in India, 22 languages in the 8th schedule of our constitution, and English being the 23rd because it is not basically an Indian language, and of course hundreds of other languages and dialects. So it was discussed how the multiplicity of languages has to be addressed, and I think All India Radio's experience can go a long way in, if not solving it, then at least understanding the problem better.
Perfect. So thank you very much for those insights. And today we were being joined by our colleagues and friends from over 30 countries. So I would definitely like more of to learn more that how your country observed this World Radio Day and how you are addressing this issue on climate change. And nevertheless, as I mentioned, that next Thursday we will be discussing a lot of things regarding SDGs apart from climate change as well. So thank you very much and hope to see you all soon next Thursday, same time, same channel. Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Thanks. Thank you,
Bye,
Nabil. Thank
sir.
you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Nabil, and thank you for the participation, and of course all the comments from all the different participants that were there from different channels. I think it was a very interesting discussion on different aspects of how radio can be used as an effective tool.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very
We'll see you soon. Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you, Mr. Omar.
Nabil, thanks.